Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. It's a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
Open. Their facilities might be closed, their locations might be altered, it might be a virtual day just simply because we're unable to get to those locations. And please continue to monitor developments from the National Hurricane Center and forecast updates from your local National Weather Service office and other reliable media outlets. And for more information, please visit our website, gema.georgia.gov. We have a page dedicated specifically to this event that will show you where shelter locations are. You can also follow us on our socials. Our socials or any other state socials, obviously the governor's office and their socials. The governor's team has been very quick to echo any message we've gotten, or they're leading their own charge with a lot of their notices as well. So please make sure you go to those trusted sources, and we appreciate any time that you echo our message. It goes a long ways because you have those folks that trust and lean on you. And with that, we'll open it up to some questions.
Chris, and this actually may be a question for Will. It's supposed to come ashore Appalachia Bay area as a Cat 4. What are we thinking when it hits Bainbridge and Cuthbert and Albany?
Well, like the director mentioned, with the increased forward speed, it was already expected to be moving in about 20 miles per hour forward motion. Now that's even increased, so it's just not going to have enough time to weaken a whole lot. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Category 3 level impacts in extreme southern Georgia, southwest, south central Georgia, but I do expect that we will see widespread Category 1, Category 2 hurricane impacts all throughout the hurricane warning area, which, as the director mentioned, is now forecast all the way up through the Columbus-Macon area.
And that was Director Stallings from actually GEMA talking about what is next. Federal emergency declaration request has been made to make sure that we can clean up and get ready for the effects of Helene.
Big news item there. Tropical storm warning all of Georgia as of 5:10 today. Our live severe weather team 2 coverage continues after the break. Southwest Airlines is cutting flights and workers at Atlanta's airport today. We learned when the changes are expected to happen.
Crews in Cobb County are busy cleaning out storm drains as Helene approaches. The progress they're making in a live report.
Updated warnings now. The hurricane warning all the way north to Macon. Tropical storm warning for all of Metro Atlanta and North Georgia. This is an upgrade from the watch. I'll take you through the hour-by-hour forecast and our impacts next.
This is Atlanta's chief media.
South Georgia. Will could probably tell you a little bit more about that timeline. The timeline we've given you is the center of the storm and the immediate impacts. But there's a leading edge of rain that will be and you might want to talk to that timeline.
Sure. So, like dealing with 2 storm systems at the same time. One is already over us now. It's going to drop at least all around the Metro Atlanta area, up the I-85 corridor, and it's really going to for the rain that's going to move in from hurricane are going to start to move to spread through north and central Georgia. I expect that we probably won't see tropical storm force and hurricane force winds enter South Georgia until tomorrow evening, but we will see some of those leading rain bands move up throughout the afternoon and evening tomorrow. But yeah, the core of the system that with the heaviest impact hurricane force conditions is probably going to hold off in South Georgia until tomorrow evening and then move up kind of along this I-75 corridor overnight tomorrow night into early Friday morning.
Director Stallings, realistically, what do you expect the power outage impacts to be?
Significant. Probably one of our most significant events we've seen in a long time. Couple things we've got going against us. This particular cell we're sitting under right now is already the ground. It's also going to prime and fill our creeks, streams, and rivers. So with that, there'll be a small lull, and then we'll get the winds. And those winds are going to be blowing against have either exposed roots or roots that are in saturated ground. They're not going to have the strength to hold like they normally would. So when those trees start to topple, they take lines down with them. And I think we're going to see some significant power outages, probably nothing like we've seen because it's 159 counties wide. I mean, some of the reports that we're seeing just for impact is even in northeast Georgia, they're looking at a foot of rain. And so that's we're not used to that, especially in the mountains. And so that's just going to be I don't want to put fear in. We're all concerned about the impacts, but there's the potential of even mudslides that the National Hurricane Center has been discussing in our mountainous areas, just because the ground is going to be so saturated. The impacts that it's going to have on power outages, we've got teams coming in from all over. Georgia Power, our EMC partners, they've brought in a lot of resources. Of course, we'll get at referencing the 72-hour window. You need to be self-sufficient. Traditionally, our partners maybe from North Georgia into South Georgia to help, or from south to north. We're not really getting to move a lot of folks around simply because we're going to be affected all over the state. So we're leaning on a lot of exterior partners from other states that are coming in. So you'll see a lot of new faces out there, maybe some new state agencies out there, things like that. We anticipate a significant impact. It would provide resources A and Category B. That's emergency sheltering. That's preventing possible impacts. That's removing folks from home, transportation needs, and things like that. Again, that goes to the cost. We have not seen, other than COVID, a recent event where 159 counties in Georgia have been impacted. Hurricane is going to probably be in the $60 or $70 million range. And it affected 30 counties, with 8 of those receiving IA. So I'm not saying do the math and 5 times that is what we're expecting. I would just simply say this is a wide-scale event with significant implications.
Can you talk about what the impacts are going to be on air travel?
That is going to be certainly FCC and make those decisions, but I would anticipate it having significant impacts on flights in and out of Atlanta, Hartsfield, or any other here in the southeast. I mean, Florida's going to be hit. We're going to be hit. Tennessee, so I would imagine Nashville, Memphis, any of those. Maybe Birmingham to our west, any of our connecting flights out of South Carolina. And, of course, that'll backflow all the connecting flights and in and out. So I would anticipate significant delays and or cancellations through the next couple days.
Can you talk about that state logistics staging area that you're moving to Middle Georgia? Where is it going to be, and what kinds of things are going there right now?
Absolutely. So we have a facility at the farmers market that is now ours, and so we'll stage tarps, MREs, water. We'll have a lot of resources that will go out immediately. Sandbags. We'll also have generators. We'll have any other resource that the state brings to bear. And we'll also have, we use it as a place for us to send resources out, manpower as well. So it's a place that we can come in, feed and things of that nature, prep them. They can come back if we're having issues getting our hands on fuel, which right now we don't see that being a problem. Certainly our partners at the convenience stores have made sure that those tanks are filled. It's extremely important for them to have full tanks so that the saturation doesn't cause those tanks to come up out of the ground. So we've been very forward-leaning to ensure we've got fuel around the state, but it's those type of things that we have, and it's located there in Macon.
Question for Will. When is the last time we saw sustained tropical storm force winds in Metro Atlanta?
Was a similar event to this in 2017 in that it was a very wide wind field and it moved all the way up, and we saw major tree damage in all counties in Georgia. Other than that, Michael, we probably saw, if we didn't get that level, we saw close to it. It's definitely been several years, but it hasn't been recently.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. If you have any further questions, obviously you can reach out to Kristen and our external affairs team. I appreciate y'all being here.
All right, that is Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency Director for the state of Georgia, James Stallings. Had some pretty ominous information at times as it regards to Hurricane Helene and its potential impacts, not only in the southern part of our state, so different information for different folks, but in terms of North Georgia, you know, the widespread power outages that this storm can cause and the flooding in many areas that we may experience here.
Yeah, the overarching theme of their messaging was for people to take this seriously and really prepare in the best way they can. Be sure that you're ready to be without power for a couple of days because they are expecting widespread power outages. But be sure to download the Fox 5 Storm Team app. We're monitoring Helene's track with our in your neighborhood up to the minute as any updates come out. We'll be right back.
Fox is here to help you stay informed. Check out Fox Local for your streaming.
Trucks, be ready for adventure. With power you can count on. Capability that doesn't compromise. A hard-working EV with more range than any competitor. And the potential. Get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado 50.
Parts of the county traditionally have the greatest potential for flooding, so it's going to be our Snellville, Stone Mountain, southern parts of Lawrenceville, and even over to Norcross. So we're going to have resources ready to go in those areas that we know have flooded in the past.
And back out here live along Wolf Creek that goes into the Yellow River, you can see the water's pretty high at the moment. So if we get a large amount of rain, which is what is predicted, this could become a potential hazard for this area. We're live in Gwinnett County. Adam Murphy, Atlanta News First.
Well, our area no stranger to heavy rain. Some 15 years ago, all that rain flooded the city of Austell, putting it under more than a foot of water. People had to use speedboats to get here and there. And with Hurricane Helene incoming, Atlanta News First Joshua Skinner explains what the city just west of Atlanta has learned to prepare for now.
Bo Garrison vividly remembers when Austell flooded in 2009.
The floods come through, took out everything. This is about 4 foot of sand right here.
When Sweetwater Creek flooded during torrential rains, huge parts of the city went under.
We were wading water up to our chins, just getting people out of their cars.
But chin deep doesn't come close to telling the story.
So how high did the water get? Well, check this out. See that red tape way up there on that black pole? That marks the high water point here at Legion Park.
Austell was caught completely off guard.
This is just our little old John boat.
The Austell Fire Department conducted more than 100 rescues in this little fella.
Up until 2009, this was the only thing that we had.
In the aftermath, the city got smart.
This is what we've evolved to.
A state-of-the-art rescue boat.
This boat is capable of doing well over 40 miles an hour in water that's less than 2 inches deep.
The city also increased its equipment and vehicle maintenance to better block off roads, close problem areas, monitor water levels, and just keep people from making bad decisions.
We get people hollering at us, you're blocking the road. I know there's a 40-foot oak tree in the middle of the road.
With Hurricane Helene, conditions might approach 2009, and while the water can't be stopped, how the city responds can make the difference between life and death.
We want to be proactive and be ahead of the game.
In Austell, Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.
We're following breaking news. A detailed police report from the day of the Appalachia school shooting has just been released.
Atlanta News First anchor Maria Moreau is at the First Alert breaking news desk with more on this. Maria?
Tracy Blair, responding officers detailing in their reports the moments that they located and found the suspected shooter, Cold Gray, and then took him into custody. Also recalling the parents and staff that called in about the shooting in the day that it happened and in the several days following. I want to share one report where a parent of a...
Maria, we're going to cut in real quick because I have some audio issues there, but we can tell you more about this report. In one of those reports, parents of a 14-year-old student said their son was in the classroom where two people were shot and that he had blood on his shirt. The red shirt and black shorts were told was entered into evidence.
Yeah, and another report, a cleaning crew had found a fired bullet inside the school near the school's computer lab. Of course, we're digging through that report right now to find more information, again, about this Appalachia school shooting that happened about 3 weeks ago.
Brad?
Unfortunately, the rain train has set up as expected out there this afternoon and into this evening. Heavy rain and thunderstorms, up to about 1.5 inches of rain so far at Hartsfield, Jackson, and other areas have already seen more than that. And this is not associated with Helene. Helene is still 800 miles from reaching North Georgia, but reach North Georgia it will. And as a very strong tropical storm, we'll talk about the wind gust potential live at 5.
A First Alert weather day for Helene. Stay with Atlanta News First as we track it.
It's that easy.
And 8 miles northwest of Jonesboro, moving north at 20 miles per hour. Hazard, heavy rain. Source, radar indicated. Impact, heavy rain may cause temporary street flooding, especially in poor drainage areas. Locations impacted include Atlanta, Marietta, Union, Douglasville, Lawrenceville, Decatur, Fayetteville, Jonesboro, Peachtree Corners, City of South Fulton, Sandy Springs, Roswell, Johns Creek, Alpharetta, Smyrna, Dunwoody, Peachtree City, East Point, Duluth, and Stockbridge. Motorists should slow down and be prepared for possible loss of control due to hydroplaning. This is NOAA Weather Radio Station, KEC 80. This broadcast originates from the National Weather Service office in Peachtree City and is transmitted from the top of Stone Mountain on a frequency of 162.55 megahertz. The KEC 80 listening area includes the following counties: Cherokee, Clayton, Cobb, DeKalb, Douglas, Fayette, Forsyth, Fulton, Gwinnett, Henry, Newton, Rockdale, and Walton. Visit our website at weather.gov/Atlanta for the latest weather information, including watches and warnings. You can also like your Peachtree City National Weather Service on Facebook or follow NWS Atlanta on Twitter. Here is the official forecast from your National Weather Service for the Atlanta listening area. Tonight, showers and a chance of thunderstorms. Near steady temperature in the upper 60s. Light northeast winds. Chance of rain near 100%. Thursday, showers and a chance of thunderstorms. Locally heavy rainfall possible. Highs in the lower 70s. East winds 15 to 20 miles an hour. Gusts up to 30 miles an hour in the afternoon. Chance of rain near 100%. Thursday night, very windy. A chance of thunderstorms. Showers. Locally heavy rainfall possible in the evening.
Expected to get a whole lot stronger by tomorrow. A period of rapid intensification over the very warm waters of the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Expected to be a Category 4 storm at landfall tomorrow on the Big Bend region of Florida. Jane, I just got the message. I see you saw it too. Jordan back in the Fox Forecast Center. That upgrade from the NHC for the surge in the Big Bend up to 20 feet, that would put it historically for Laura back in 2020 and, of course, Katrina in 2005.
A name bumped in for a top 3. I mean, catastrophic that brought damage that we're still, learning from. And when you look at Helene, where do you even begin? There's so many impacts that are far-reaching, and some of which are going to be coming at the same time. Some of which, you kind of have to wait to see what's going to happen first. But there were two things that when we talked with the governor earlier that really stuck with me. One is preparing for your biggest impact. If it's storm surge, heeding those evacuations, leaving, making sure that you're putting yourself in a position of safety. And with a 20-foot surge, in the Big Bend and even into Apalachicola up to 15 feet. I mean, that is unsurvivable when you think of it.
Yeah, it's a very important message. And Jane, have those numbers been adjusted down the coast at all, or was it just for that little piece? I mean, I know we're talking about a giant wind field. It's big already, and it's growing larger. It's more or less a storm to produce a maximum surge in the northeastern part of the Gulf.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bigger surge. It all depends too, how close does it track on the right side of the cone too? What time do we have the high tide and low tide cycle? We talked about that briefly. I mean, that could be the difference of a couple feet. Talking numbers up and over 5, 6, up to 8 feet in some of these more populated areas like where you are in Tampa Bay. I mean, that's surely going to bring in, damage and roads that are impassable.
Jane, a lot of it. I told you about the beach replenishment here in Paso Grove, which is not a cheap process, moving a lot of earth, but building this up 4 feet higher where I'm standing than where it was just about a year ago at this time. So yes, when you consider that a maximum surge, if it comes at high tide and we get that perpendicular water, we could see a rise here up to 8 feet. That is especially dangerous in this prone to storms.
And flood. For extreme flash flooding that is going to come over the next. See that even further inland because the storm
hazards are at your home and prepare for them.
A state of emergency has been declared for 61 of Florida's 67 counties in response to Hurricane Helene. The storm strengthening is forecast to make landfall in and around the Big Bend region. Major hurricane as the
I check in with Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis. And Governor, I'm standing on Paso Grove. A delay here. The state of Florida is absolutely at its best preparing for and responding to disasters like this, but this is a big one. I'm not sure if you could hear the upgrade. We were just talking about it with Brian Norcross, our hurricane specialist. Now expected to be a 4 at landfall with surge up to 20 feet. You've got hundreds of miles of coastline with alerts up, and then well inland, including the state's capital. What's the biggest concern here moving forward through the next couple of days?
Well, immediately, people have an ability today. If you're in an evacuation area, you have still have time to evacuate. In Florida, you don't need to evacuate hundreds of miles. You can go inland, get on higher ground. We have shelters, we have hotels. There's a wide variety of options. But when you're in an area that could have that threatening. And so if you're told to evacuate, you have time to heed those calls. You also have time, if you're not in an evacuation zone, to execute your plan. You should anticipate losing power. Now, we have tens of thousands of linemen that are staged and ready to go, and that's kind of our practice here in Florida. And they will descend to get the power back on as quickly as possible. And while we've been successful in doing that in recent years, this is and you never know what will happen with some of this. So I think people have time today. As we get into tomorrow, the weather's going to be too hazardous for you to be out and about. And what we see in every storm is, unfortunately, we do see fatalities on the roads for people that are driving when the conditions are too hazardous. So do what you need to do today. You have time for the rest of today. As you get into tomorrow, it's going to get really dicey.
Different parts of the state face hazards. It reminds me a little bit of Irma with the storm size and how impactful on both sides, the Gulf Coast, over on the Atlantic side. Down here in the Tampa Bay area, surge is a bit of a concern. We got some hurricane force. I wanted to ask you about the capital. Because of the fast size of the wind field, we could be talking about a direct, and there isn't necessarily a storm of reference that folks can lead on for an experience like that. So how much concern for the Capitol through the day tomorrow?
Well, you're right about the point of reference. I mean, the last 2 years we've had Debbie and we've had Idalia. Both of those at one point were heading towards Tallahassee, and then they toggled east and kind of went in the heart of the Big Bend. So Tallahassee, Gadsden, Leon County, Cullah, Taylor County, they got the weekend of the storm. So they had some impacts. But when you're talking about a hurricane that it looks like on the 5 o'clock advisory, the eye of the hurricane is going to be slightly west of the city of Tallahassee, that means you're going to get the strong side of the storm. So first of all, there isn't a recent storm with a point of reference. So if you're in Wakulla, if you're on the coast in Franklin, just understand you've not seen this with the more recent storms. It's also the case in a place like Tallahassee areas. You get into southern Georgia, there's a beautiful communities that are heavily wooded and tree lined. And the problem with that is, while it's beautiful to live normally, when you have 125-mile-an-hour winds, trees are going to get knocked down. So you may not be in an evacuation zone, but if you have some of these big trees that are close to your home, you've got to make a judgment about, are there places in your home you know you'll be safe in the event one of the trees falls, or do you make the decision to evacuate, ride out the storm somewhere else, and then come back and inspect your property after? But I don't a storm that has met major hurricane status that has had this track into Tallahassee. Now, we're here at the Emergency Operations Center, hunkered down here. We have a contingent of people over in the Western Panhandle just in case something happens with this building. You know, it's interesting, this building was built in 1996, and they made the walls Cat 5 proof, but they only made the roof Cat 3 proof. I guess they didn't have enough money. So we're going to test it and we're going to see what happens. But we do have contingencies in place in case something happens with this building. We think we're going to be fine here, and our intent is to get it out in the EOC.
Yeah, Governor, it sounds like the fortress that the National Hurricane Center built down in Miami, minus the roof, unfortunately. So we're wishing you the best moving forward through this. You talked about the inevitability. Trees are going to come down. That's going to lead to power outages. I know the influx of crews has been massive coming in from a lot of the neighboring states, but you've got tropical storm warnings at least effectively for the whole peninsula, and then the more extreme impacts closer up toward the capital. What are you expecting here as far as the response in the immediate aftermath of this once conditions are safe to restore power? Because this is going to have to be a massive undertaking almost statewide.
Yeah, for sure. So you're going to see power crews, places like Sarasota, Manatee, where you are in Pinellas, Hillsborough, to the extent that there are outages, and we assume there probably will be. The storm's going to pass there before it hits, before it passes Tallahassee. Crews there. Now, the thing that's going to be challenging in this Tallahassee region is you can have all the crews in the world, and we work to bring. We're happy to do it, but you also got to have a pathway for them to get to the power lines to be able to fix them to debris. You got to get that debris cleared. So that's something that we've told the local governments here, the city, the counties in this area, make sure you're taking debris removal seriously. We have the Florida Department of Transportation that will assist with that and clear debris off the roadways. But in some respects, the power restoration in this part of the state, may be more challenging was, say, where you saw Florida Power and Light. I mean, they were restoring massive numbers of accounts within 24 or 48 hours. That can be done in certain areas here, but we really got to see what the debris looks like. But I will tell you, this has been something that we've thought about for a long time in previous years. It is something that we have resources available to help the local communities, the municipalities, and the counties clear that debris so that these linemen can get to work.
Yeah, they did a really nice job with that in Southwest Florida. As you mentioned, they had that causeway rebuilt. That felt like a miracle how quickly that happened. But this is so much larger of a geographic area and for so many people. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, Governor, what are you telling your residents as far as the absolute end of their hurricane preps? The NHC is urging folks property. We're running out of time here pretty fast.
Yeah. Do it today. You do not want to be out and about tomorrow as we start to see. We'll start seeing effects first thing in the morning. So you have time now. You can bring your plan to fruition, whether that's an evacuation, whether that is just topping off your gas tank, making sure you have supplies for your house, but you don't wait past today. So I know a lot of people have been preparing starting yesterday. That's great. But if you haven't done it, now's go time. So
tonight, as we move forward through this evening, that's why you have the hurricane plan. You need to put it into effect as this danger storm approaches. We know how busy of a day it must have been, Governor. We really appreciate your time here on Fox Weather. That's Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis. Thank you.
Thanks.
Lee, not the only thing we have going on in the tropics. Of course, it is the also have two invests to keep our eyes on. Invest both expected to think shore Center giving it 50% chance in the next 2 days, 80% over the next 7. Likely would take on the next named storm, which I believe would be Isaac. Now, this is the exclusive Fox model taking the path of this through the main development region, a little further to the north. Lesser Antilles, hundreds of miles away. Not a strong circulation, but still something to keep our eyes on. This particular storm, Invest 99. The subtropics is expected to pull away from the United States coastline, so even should it get its act together, thankfully will not have any impacts here at home, but we still have plenty of the season to go.
Weather is your Hurricane HQ. Helene continues to intensify as we move forward through this evening. Rapid intensification is expected, and now, as we've told you, expected to be major at Category 4 evening in the we have you covered 24/7 throughout this event and with us on Fox Weather. Remember, you can find us at foxweather.tv, always on, always free. That's an easy place to find out where you can stay plugged in. Stay with us.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in tonight. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
Does RexMD really work? Over 85% of patients said, not only does it work, our results the very first night. Get started today with a 3-month trial pack if appropriate at TryRexMD.com.
I was drowned. I didn't even know how I was going to buy food for my kids.
I had over $36,000 in debt.
If I would have just made the minimum payments, it would have taken me 59 years to pay off. I knew I wasn't in debt myself.
I picked up the call of National Debt. They were my savior.
Whether it's credit card, medical, debt, National Debt Relief negotiates your creditors to reduce the amount you owe.
National Debt Relief was able to reduce $21,000.
From the minute I made the call to National Debt Relief, I felt immediate relief. I had a plan for me.
They treated me like a real person, not a number.
It really was a team working with me.
National Debt Relief negotiated with all of my creditors and reduced the amount that I owe.
If you owe more than $10,000, call or visit nationaldebtrelief.com to find out how you can become debt-free.
That's $78.29.
$50. Take out the cheese puffs and the broccoli. I mean, who likes broccoli?
I don't. $2.87 to go.
It would be faster with the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives you up to $300 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
I've got money. But leave out the broccoli.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $300 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. The premium quality automatic seated exerciser that increases mobility, circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs. Increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better. My knees feel better. My back feels better. It makes me feel stronger, too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
That's the sound of Helene already. It's churning its way into the Gulf of Mexico before honing in on Florida and really the entire southeast. Likely to become a major hurricane. You can see the conditions. This is in Cancun as Helene slammed into the area. Welcome to Fox Weather Live. I'm Steve Benner. Florida, of course, is on high alert as Helene's impacts are expected to begin tonight. We're talking wind. Rain is going to be coming in bunches, life-threatening storm surge. That's even ramped up. The danger stretches from the Keys all the way up through Tampa into the Big Bend region and all throughout the southeast. St. Petersburg is bracing for potential never-before-seen levels of storm surge. The city's mayor is urging people not to take Helene lightly. Take a listen.
Is the time to prepare. This is a very strong, very serious storm, and the storm surge is really something we haven't seen in this area forever.
And we know Helene is expected to rapidly intensify. It's already gone through one cycle of rapid intensification, but when it starts to get closer and closer to the Big Bend, could make landfall as a high-end Cat 3, low-end Cat 4. Either way, major storm, and we've got major coverage. The team coverage has been throughout the day, and look at all our crews that are stationed throughout the southeast as Helene hits. We'll get you caught up on everything that's evolved throughout the day. What's happened now with that latest advisory and what you can expect for tomorrow with landfall approaching. Let's bring in now hurricane specialist Brian Norcross to break this all down as we look. Brian, Helene making its way into the southern Gulf, and it's impressive from the eye test. Is going to continue to strengthen over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, looking at the big picture, it really does look like a developing storm, Steve. You can see these outer bands here over Florida, but the core is not yet developed. Hurricane hunters, they're not finding a well-defined storm, but we still are in the storm, this big that's going to cover the entire state of Florida and a good part of the by Friday, Thursday, this is impact day tomorrow over Florida, and then the rest of the southeast Friday up to the Midwest. This is a crazy, really unprecedented combination of weather factors coming together. 80 miles per hour is the pressure but hurricane hunters have just reported 975, indicating the pressure continues slowly down. That means more and more energy in the overall system, but in a big system, energy is spread out over a wide area. All right, let's take a look at what we're seeing on the radars out of Florida. Now, the Florida radars cannot down there by when it's just north of Cancun. Look at already the bands here, and this gives you an idea of the scope of the storm. And this is because big storms move more water in the Gulf of Mexico, create higher storm surge, even if the winds aren't as high. So you can have a more powerful storm and you get less storm surge. A weaker storm that's bigger, you get more. If you have a big storm that's big, you get the maximum. And that's what the concern is with this storm. So already these strong bands, anybody that, if you were watching earlier, Ian had one up there in St. Pete Beach, just poured torrential rain and lightning, and that's what you're moving north already, and they'll just get gustier as we go through the night tonight. So here's the latest cone from the Hurricane Center, from the latest advisory. 110 miles per hour is the forecast now, and we're talking about overnight tonight. So increasing in intensity at a steady pace. That's the thinking. And then the 130 mile an hour beam of Tampa. This is tomorrow after is the time period. Again, this is always plus or minus. So if they forecast 130 mile per hour, plan for 150 just in case. Some of the computer forecasts indeed indicate wind strengths at that level. And then coming ashore here is a Category 3 or 4 hurricane. The intensification period, and then before I go on, mentioning up here, up at Albany and way into Georgia, into South Georgia, hours there went through Michael that came into Georgia, did a tremendous amount of damage to the crops and all kinds of damage up there. This is another one of those, but bigger and more area, super intense because of fast. Look at this. It goes from tomorrow in the overnight hours to evening to up here it's Friday morning. So it's accelerating and that just means more wind on the right side as it moves north. See the superheated, it's called the loop current, to really supercharge here into tomorrow. That's why that intensification. So here's the storm. It's the size. Tomorrow morning, if you were watching Governor DeSantis earlier, he said, no, do not plan to be moving around tomorrow in most of Florida, and that's the peninsula. Already the winds will be starting to blow, and the strongest winds, the hurricane force gusts, are the yellows. Now watch as we go forward in time. There we are, 11 a.m., and here we have the west coast. But even these winds over here can and make it dangerous to drive. Going forward now to tomorrow afternoon, you see a good part of the state, including the east coast, with hurricane force gusts possible. So this is going to dominate the entire state of Florida. Having storm surge. Storm surge warning. If you have one in your area, that means life-threatening storm surge is forecast for your area. We just hope a lot for such.
Right, I want to ask, one of the tropical storm inland location, threat of winds, but even the rain, that is kind of alarming, Brian, when we look at especially areas in the Carolinas, the eastern foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. What's your take on that expectation for the rain?
So we have a really unusual situation. We have this big upper level storm that's kind of over Arkansas-ish, right? Mm-hmm. These are going to merge, and so we end up with potentially catastrophic flooding, northeast Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, upstate of South Carolina, the West Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains, up into Tennessee, maybe even flooding up into as far north as Ohio, Kentucky. I mean, this is everything we know going to be an epic event where that's phase 3. Landfall is 2, and then all the rest from the southeast to the Midwest.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like you had said, phase 3, we'll address it when it comes in. Hurricane specialist Brian Norcross, great analysis. Thank you for that update. Right? We're going to be talking about those areas just around Tampa where they're out that storm system is bringing in all that Gulf water, that salt water intrusion with a freshwater intrusion on St. Pete. Ian, you called this home for many years. Walk us through. You had a great analysis throughout the afternoon today. Talk about what you're seeing there out.
Yes, so to all that, and you can't get to phase 2 or 3 before you get to phase 1. Exactly where I'm standing, and that's what folks here are concerned. Strengthening storm in Helene approaching from our south-southwest. So this is the southern part. You mentioned it's actually favorite when I lived. It's a lot of people's favorite. A bar and restaurant called Hurricane. Part of culture here, but those storms, that's a special arm and nature to all of these hazards. So you coast, Pinellas County, a portion of Florida, has about 35 miles closer by. It's where you see the big pink hotel, the Don Cesar. If you've vacationed down here, you can't miss the gigantic pink. But they do a lot of effort to mitigate some of the hazards that we see with tropical systems. I'm talking about things like beach replenishment. That's happened right here on Paso Grill Beach. It was happening earlier this afternoon. We saw the bulldozers beam this new sand which was put here, and I'm told that where I'm standing is about 4 feet higher than it was at this time last year. And where we're standing, because of our proximity to the inner core, thankfully, as you were showing, we don't take the direct hit. But because the wind field of this storm is so, only expecting the middle of the forecast cone, we'll see if it goes left or right down the middle. Something like off the shore that you're looking at right here, right off the beach, out into the Gulf of Mexico. And we see storm force winds already extend. There's a reason why there's a hurricane watch where I am. It's because hurricane conditions are possible, and we could see a peak surge if it occurs at high tide up to about 8 feet of water rise. This is a heavily populated area. There's about 1 million people in Pinellas.
Their experts are stressing now is the time to get prepared.
Local residents are better off to think through what they need individually to prepare for this and then secure those resources now.
Batteries, flashlights, tarp, and all the essentials checked off the list. People we spoke to say it's better to be safe than sorry.
Fingers crossed that we're preparing for the worst and it is nothing.
And another thing you'll want to check off your list is the grocery store, stocking up on those essential items like water bottles, ensuring that your family is ready to weather this storm. Reporting live in Vinings, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
So grab your phone right now and then text the word storm to this number. It's 470-777-WANF. It is the easiest way for your family to stay alert and get live updates, including our latest list of school closures, which we keep updating here tonight. Again, text the word storm to 470-777-WANF.
And our entire team of First Alert meteorologists are tracking Helene around the clock.
Including First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez right now. Jen.
Yeah, and we have First Alert weather days through Friday. Helene now forecast to be a Category 4 hurricane as it makes landfall. That means a greater impact in North Georgia. I'll let you know what we should expect.
If your medical prescription's running low, you can refill it now, even if it's not time. Atlanta News First investigates your rights during.
And fog, it was 66. Wind east at 3. At Mableton, with heavy rain and fog, it was 66. Wind northeast at 9. At Peachtree City, with rain and fog, it was 66. Wind calm. At Lawrenceville, with a thunderstorm, it was 65. Wind variable at 7. At Kennesaw, with rain it was 66, wind variable at 6. Elsewhere around the region, at Athens, it was cloudy and 69, wind northwest at 5. At Gainesville, with a thunderstorm, it was 65, wind northwest at 10. At Macon, it was cloudy and 83, wind south at 7. At Columbus, with rain and fog, it was 70, wind northeast at 6. At Birmingham, it was mostly sunny and 79, wind northeast at 6. At Rome, with light rain, it was 68, wind northeast at 6. At Chattanooga, it was cloudy and 74, wind south at 5. At Asheville, with a thunderstorm, it was 70, wind northwest at 6. At Augusta, it was cloudy and 82, wind southeast at 14, gusting to 22. The Atlanta Climate Summary for this evening, as of 4 p.m., September 25th, 2024. Today's high temperature of 86 degrees occurred at noon. The normal high is 82. The record high is 93 degrees, which was last set in 2019. Today's low temperature of 67 degrees occurred at 3:06 p.m. The normal low is 63. The record low is 45 degrees, which was set in 1887. 0.74 inches of precipitation fell today, which brings the monthly total to 1.89 inches. This is 1.24 inches below the normal amount of 3.13
Atlanta police say happened here about 2 weeks ago. The victim in this case was an employee.
I received a call from dispatch about a disgruntled passenger acting erratically on one of our shuttles.
Warren says it was when he rushed to the airport shuttle. That erratic passenger turned out to be an unhoused belligerent man who was being aggressive toward the female shuttle driver. That's when Supervisor Lawrence stepped in.
As I told him he could no longer board any shuttles, the situation escalated. He got closer into my personal space in my life.
Oregon, 2100 UTC. The center of Hurricane Helene was located near latitude 22.5 north, longitude 86.6 west. Helene is moving toward the north near 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers/h. A northward or north-northeastward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next 36 hours. On the forecast track, Helene will move across the eastern Gulf of Mexico tonight and Thursday and cross the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. After landfall, Helene is expected to turn northwestward and slow down over the Tennessee Valley on Friday and Saturday. Maximum sustained winds are near 85 miles per hour, 140 kilometers/h with higher gusts. Strengthening is forecast, and Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but Helene's fast forward speed will allow strong, damaging winds, especially in gusts, to penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles, 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles, 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars, 28.88 inches. A tropical storm watch remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Heard, Henry, Jackson, Jasper,
That update,
Jefferson,
not much has really changed out there. Still expected to be a Category 3 storm as it makes landfall. We can still deal with some hurricane conditions here in southwest Georgia as that storm continues to push forward into the area. Tropical storm as it pushes closer toward North Georgia, and then we're going to see that low just kind of falling apart sometime into Friday, going on into Saturday as it gets closer toward Tennessee. We're going to definitely keep you updated on this track as we go throughout the day. So a very busy next 48 hours here across southwest Georgia.
And right now you're looking at a video in Cancun, Mexico, where Helene slammed through that area with heavy rain and strong winds. And now South Georgia is bracing for Helene. Now, before we talk about what's happening here or what will happen in southwest Georgia, this is Bradenton Beach. You're looking live at the west coast of Florida. Fortunately, I say, they will not see a direct hit from the storm, but they will see plenty of rain and storm surge. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Carla Heath Sands, and tomorrow has been declared a first alert weather day. First alert meteorologist Tommy Owens is staying on top of Helene's latest track.
Well, yes, we can see Hurricane Helene right now has winds at around 80 miles per hour, continuing its journey north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. The storm entering into the Gulf of Mexico as we speak. It's going to get into those fairly warm waters and start to intensify over the next several hours. Right now, it is expecting this system around 6 p.m. this evening, so maybe at the next advisory or even a little bit after that, the 8 o'clock advisory, we could be seeing a Category 2 hurricane. Let's definitely keep an eye on that as we go ahead. Here's a look at tropical satellite right now. You can see that expansive cloud band just around the area. You can see a few of those bands from this system even already entering into portions of Florida right now and getting a little bit closer to southwest Georgia. That cloud cover is expansive. Now, something we're dealing with even a little bit further to our west is a cold front. This cold front associated with a low, you can see already some showers and storms popping up with this system, bringing in some showers and storms all the way toward Atlanta. Some of those could enter into some of our counties here in southwest Georgia for some rainfall today. And then we're also going to be seeing that joining in with some of that tropical moisture that's already starting to move into portions of Florida right now. This is a look at that marginal risk that we have across those areas for today. This is our day one outlook. Notice marginal risk, which highlights damaging winds and even can't rule out a chance from a tornado from some of those storms. Now, the forecast highlights that we are going to be seeing some of those showers and storms try to enter into southwest Georgia, but notice it tries to really bring in a lot more of that tropical moisture in here. A bit of those bands already entering into southwest Georgia, bringing in heavy rainfall. And we'll also start seeing winds picking up throughout the day on a Thursday, and then those major impacts really getting to us. Notice this is by the afternoon. This is going on into the evening. This is where we're finally going to start seeing a majority of those impacts happening here in South Georgia with those high winds and that very heavy rainfall that's just going to be continuing throughout the day tomorrow and going on into the day on early portions of Friday. Notice by 5 a.m. on Friday, already trying to show the system completely out of here, and then we're mainly going to deal with some cloud cover as we go on later into the morning on your Friday. And so Thursday is a first alert weather day, and that continues all the way until early Friday morning with hurricane conditions likely in a number of locations. Can't rule out flash flooding and even some tornadoes as well. I'll give you more details on your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, today Lowndes County opened its emergency management center as residents and officials prepare to face another storm. WALB News 10's Brittany Blake is live in Valdosta to tell us how they are preparing for Helene. Brittany?
Since the impacts of Hurricane Idalia 1 year ago and Tropical Storm Debbie earlier this year, storm preparation is very critical here in Lowndes County. Lowndes County has opened the Emergency Management Center for all local, state, and surrounding areas to prepare and debrief on the response to tomorrow's storm.
We're doing the same we've done for the last few years. We work around the clock all year long to be prepared, to stay prepared. We're working with all of our stakeholders in the community to make sure they have the resources that they need to be prepared and be ready to respond after this hurricane passes through Lowndes County.
Residents have been taking advantage of the multiple sandbag locations across the city and the county, packing their cars with sand that has been dumped in over 6 locations. Lowndes County residents can get direct alerts by signing up for Alert Lowndes. Go to lounscounty.com, click the storm icon, and register. Make sure you stay tuned here at WALB for team coverage on this upcoming storm. Reporting live in Valdosta, Brittany Blake, WALB, your hometown news source.
And we are about 24 hours away from Hurricane Helene making landfall in South Georgia, and the city of Thomasville is working with Thomas County for their last-minute preparations. Some of the major concerns the city has include power outages, flooding, downed trees, and blocked roads. Officials say if you can evacuate, now is the time to do so.
Get out of the way of the path. We're anticipating the storm to be extremely bad, so just leave if you're able to, and if you're not, have your emergency numbers on standby so that whenever the storm passes, we can quickly assist you.
Coming up on WALB News 10 at 5, neighbors describe why the timing of this storm is making them anxious about what's to come. And the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency want to make sure you are prepared and ready for Helene when it hits. GEMA is reminding all residents to be sure to secure any outdoor furniture or items outside of your home. Make sure trees, bushes, and shrubs are trimmed to make them more wind resistant. And be prepared for any power outages. Have your flashlights or battery-powered lanterns just in case you lose power. And be mindful when using your phone in case you're unable to charge it due to power outages. Multiple schools across South Georgia are closing due to Helene tomorrow and Friday. On our website, WALB.com, you can see a full list of school closures and delays across our viewing area. All you need to do is go to the orange tab at the top of the website, call closing under that tab. Now, across the South in Florida, the Tallahassee, the storm is prompting a call for help from Champ's Chance Dog Rescue. The shelter is trying to make sure all of the animals are safe inside foster homes ahead of Helene. Usually there are about 50 dogs at a time, but the goal is to empty the kennels before the storm and for them to have somewhere safe to go for at least the next week. Officials say if you would like help, or if you'd like to help, you must complete a foster application and then take your ID in order to pick up a pup.
So many dogs that still need a home, and even if you're only able to do it for just the storm, it's very, very helpful because then the people who volunteer here will have to take in so many dogs at once. So I think it's great to have one that you can give all the love to for the next week or so.
Champ's Chance is also in need of volunteers to prepare the rescue and help to get the dogs out of the kennels to foster. They will provide food, a leash, collar, and other essentials when you take a dog home. Now more than ever is when you need our First Alert weather app. It's really simple. Head to your app store and download it for free. You will touch First Alert weather and get the latest information as we continue to track Helene.
Coming up, you'll hear from parents of Tift County High School students as they explain what needs to change.
Cox and Wilkinson. In East Central Georgia, Emmanuel, Glasscock, Greene, Hancock, Jefferson, Johnson, Tolliver, Trutland, Warren, Washington, and Wilkes. In North Central Georgia, Barrow, Cherokee, Clayton, Cobb, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Fannin, Fayette, Forsyth, Gilmer, Gwinnett, Hall, Henry, Lumpkin, Morgan, Newton, North Fulton, Pickens, Rockdale, South Fulton, Union, and Walton. In Northeast Georgia, Banks, Clark, Jackson, Madison, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Townsend, White. In Northwest Georgia, Bartow, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Dade, Floyd, Gordon, Harrelson, Murray, Paulding, Polk, Walker, and Whitfield. In Southeast Georgia, Toombs. In West Central Georgia, Chattahoochee, Coweta, Harris, Hurd, Limar, Macon, Marion, Meriwether, Muskogee, Pike, Schley, Spalding, Stewart, Sumter, Talbot, Taylor, Troop, Upson, and Webster. When? Through Friday afternoon. Impacts. Excessive runoff may result in significant flooding of rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying and flood-prone locations. Creeks and streams may rise out of their banks. Substantial flooding may occur in poor drainage and urban areas. Additional details: areas of heavy rainfall will continue across much of north and portions of central Georgia through tonight, which will likely lead to areas of flash flooding. Additional widespread torrential rainfall is expected to overspread the area Thursday into Thursday night as Hurricane Helene approaches. Storm total rainfall of 4 to 10 inches with locally higher amounts over 12 inches are expected through Friday. Widespread flooding is expected with significant flash flooding and moderate to major river flooding possible. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. You should monitor later forecasts and be alert for possible flood warnings. Those living in areas prone to flooding should be prepared to take action should flooding develop. The Atlanta Climate Summary for this evening, as of 4 p.m., September 25th, 2024. Today's high temperature of 86 degrees occurred at noon. The normal high is 82. The record high is 93 degrees, which was last set in 2019. Today's low temperature of 67 degrees occurred at 3:06 p.m. The normal low is 63. The record low is 45 degrees, which was set in 1887. 0.74 inches of precipitation fell today, which brings the monthly total to 1.89 inches. This is 1.24 inches below the normal amount of 3.13 inches for September. The total precipitation for the year now stands at 45.43 inches, which is 7.52 inches above normal. There were no heating degree days today. This leaves the monthly total at 0. The yearly total since July 1st is 0. There were 12 cooling degree days today. This brings the monthly total to 312. The yearly total since January 1st is 2,304. Sunset tonight is at 7:30 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow is at 7:29 a.m. At 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Oregon, 2100 UTC. The center of Hurricane Helene was located near latitude 22.5 north, longitude 86.6 west. Helene is moving toward the north near 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers/h. A northward or north-northeastward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next 36 hours. On the forecast track, Helene will move across the eastern Gulf of Mexico tonight and Thursday and cross the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. After landfall, Helene is expected to turn northwestward and slow down over the Tennessee
digital
Valley
learning
on
tomorrow
Friday
and Friday. We'll have that full list of the school schedule changes scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can also find it on WSBTV.com.
That's classic, isn't it? Text like, we're not closing. We'll do digital learning. It's on brand. We have live severe weather Team 2 coverage tonight. Both Chief Meteorologist Brad Nitz and Meteorologist Brian Monahan. Let's get started with Brad.
Yeah, so heavy rain across metro Atlanta and North Georgia. Now we are covered up. This is not directly related to Hurricane Helene, but it is setting the stage for a significant flood threat. In fact, there is a flood threat for us as we head through this evening and into the night. And then on top of that, Helene comes in with its torrential tropical downpours. Right now we have some heavy rain and storms across northeast Georgia. If you were tuned in several hours ago, Channel 2 Action News at 3, there's a tornado warning in parts of Habersham and Rabun counties. No reports of that touching down, but we did have reports of some trees down in White County. But the focus now is on the heavy rain across metro Atlanta and that increasing flood threat through this evening. Clouded ground lightning and these downpours really just blanketing the entire metro area. Now the tropical storm watch has been upgraded to a tropical storm warning. That's what you see in orange, and a hurricane warning to the south. Now the upgrade is not because the forecast has changed, but it's because we are closer in time. So tropical storm watch means tropical storm conditions expected within 36 hours, and we have entered that window because this hurricane in the southern Gulf of Mexico will be producing tropical storm force winds here within about 36 hours. It's going to be a fast-moving storm. Right now, 85-mile-an-hour winds, gust to 105. That's significant, but nothing like what's going to develop in the hours ahead. By tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m., a major Category 4 hurricane moving towards the Florida Panhandle and Big Bend region. This, unfortunately, is going to produce catastrophic damage here near and just to the right of where it makes landfall. We're talking storm surge 15 feet or higher, tremendous amount of wind and rain. But because this storm is moving so rapidly to the north, the time that it takes for these winds to spin down as it moves inland is going to really allow this to maintain some intensity to Category 1 hurricane strength 2 a.m. Friday in parts of middle Georgia. So we're talking about tropical or hurricane force winds rather overnight as close as Macon and potentially some of our southern counties in the southern part of the Channel 2 viewing area, and certainly strong tropical storm force winds and conditions across metro Atlanta as it sweeps to the north. By Friday afternoon, it'll stay breezy, but the worst will be over. Heavy rain, that's a big concern. This round one, what's happening now through tomorrow morning, we're talking 2 to 4 inches, isolated higher totals. But then when we add after tomorrow night into Friday, the rain from Helene, 6 to 10 inches. See the green here? Localized 12 to 15 inches of rain. Widespread, significant flooding is a concern. And we're talking about the potential for mudslides in the North Georgia mountains with this kind of rain. At the same time, winds, they'll be breezy, and they're really going to pick up Thursday night into Friday morning, bringing the potential for tropical storm force winds. Meteorologist Brian Monahan is going to take you through the rest of the forecast and the impact these winds are going to have.
And Brad, it is going to be those strong wind gusts, the saturated soil after all of the rain we've seen overnight. We'll see overnight and into tomorrow. That's really going to make these strong wind gusts a big issue. So we're going to be with you overnight, really through the next 48 hours or so as we track Helene and the impacts with this initial system coming through, combined again with all of the heavy rain, these strong wind gusts. This is early Friday morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. You're going to want to be here with us on Channel 2 Action News this morning as we track Helene moving up through South Georgia and Middle Georgia and bringing wind gusts 50, 60, perhaps even up to 70 miles per hour, especially near and to the east of the track of the center of Helene. That's going to be near Metro Atlanta and on the east side of Metro Atlanta. And then as we go through Friday morning and then into Friday afternoon, it's going to stay gusty and windy. But let's say after about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, those wind speeds should start to come down. Now, the risk of power outages, it is significant. When I was thinking about this system, we were talking about it. We think about Hurricane Irma coming through North Georgia back in September 2017. Thousands of trees down, power outages for days. And let me show you our power outage index. This is through Friday. Significant, numerous to widespread power outages from Atlanta east, a little more scattered on the west side, but still this is going to have significant wind damage across North Georgia, along with the flooding rain. So we've got tropical storm conditions in your 5-day forecast with the weekend always in view through Friday morning. By the afternoon, Friday, sunshine coming out. Saturday, we're drying out. Some more showers around on Sunday. Brad will be back in just a few minutes with an updated forecast on Helene.
So as Brad and Brian have been discussing for hours, gusting winds from Helene could knock down so many trees and
shelters there by calling the critical information line using the number that you see on your screen. Reporting from Steinhatchee, Kenya Cardone, ABC 27.
Neighbors in many areas who have mandatory evacuation orders are coming to Gadsden County and calling it their safe place during Hurricane Helene. I'm Ashley Engel, your Quincy neighborhood reporter, and I'm checking to see how this community is preparing for these guests. Neighbors from Wakulla County, Steinhatchee, and other areas who have mandatory evacuation orders are moving northwest to avoid Hurricane Helene. Hotels in the Quincy neighborhood are getting booked quick. Ava McKenzie is the assistant manager at the Hampton Inn. She tells me their call volume has increased significantly. She says they are doing everything they can to prepare for their guests before the storm hits.
We've made sure we've got plenty of water. We know we've got plenty of bread. We've got plenty of food that we can serve if our power goes down, which is more than likely going to happen. Everybody, we have our emergency lights, we've got extra lights.
Neighbors I spoke to that evacuated who didn't want to be on camera say they didn't want to take the risk and stay in their homes because they do not know how bad Helene is going to be. Ava tells me if they do have a power outage, they do not have generators to restore that power. She tells me this is still a safe option for those who need to evacuate. In the Quincy neighborhood, I'm Ashley Engel, ABC 27.
Leaders are asking neighbors living in manufactured homes to evacuate and find a safe place to stay. I was there as Leon County and Tallahassee officials urged those neighbors to get out and find shelter. Some neighbors have already gotten their homes ready. They have boarded up windows and put sandbags outside of their homes. Others are being asked to leave their homes.
Effective now.
Leon County leaders issued a mandatory evacuation for neighbors in manufactured homes like trailers or RVs. Leaders, including Sheriff Walt McNeil, say this storm could be unprecedented. The sheriff told me his office has one main goal.
We don't want to see one death during this season, this hurricane season at all. And the way we can continue not to have those deaths is to do the things we're asking.
McNeil and other leaders are asking neighbors to avoid leaving their homes immediately after the storm so electric crews can get to work. Mayor John Daly says mutual aid linemen from 9 different states arrive Wednesday. He says they will triple our electric workforce by Wednesday evening and hopefully increase it 5-fold by the end of the storm. And if you are under that evacuation order, you can head to one of those 7 shelters that opened up at 6 p.m. tonight. We have a list of those locations in our live blog at WTXL.tv.
Final preparations are going on at Leon County shelters as Hurricane Helene makes its way to Tallahassee. I'm Terry Gilliam in Southeast Tallahassee, where Lincoln High School is just one of the shelters in Leon County. The 7 shelters that are available include Childs, Lincoln, Godby, Leon, and Sale High Schools, along with Fort Braden School and Fairview Middle. Shelters have been preparing all day Wednesday, making sure the places are suitable for neighbors evacuating to them. Inside one shelter at Lincoln High School were over 500 meal packs, water, and sleeping cots. I got to speak to one neighbor outside the shelter about how he's feeling ahead of the storm.
I'm a believer, I say I trust in the Lord, so I'm just, praying that he be merciful to all of us and all cities that this storm may go through.
All shelters in Leon County are now open for those who plan on coming in. Now, neighbors have already started to trickle in here at Lincoln High School, and people inside tell me that they expect the crowd to increase. In Southeast Tallahassee, Terry Gilliam, ABC 27.
Hopefully to send out information on a hunger, cause people to panic.
In Southwest Tallahassee, Second Harvest of the Big Bend is preparing to respond to the storm. Staff and volunteers have been working to stock up supplies for neighborhoods in need. During Idalia in 2023, they distributed nearly 1 million pounds of food after landfall. This time around,
because this hurricane is likely going to hit a more populated area within our service area, we anticipate that the amount of food that we'll have to be distributing over the next 2 weeks will well exceed 1 million pounds.
Second Harvest serves 16 counties in the Big Bend. All of them could feel the impacts from Helene.
It's been a combination of sporadic rainfall and neighbors just making sure that their sandbags are ready to go here in my neighborhood. I'm AJ Douglas in Bainbridge, telling my neighbors that there is a safe place to go should they need shelter ahead of Hurricane Helene. People here in Decatur County are working to make sure they are prepared for the storm. People have been stopping into places like Bainbridge Public Safety and Public Works to fill bags with sand in hopes of preparing for any flooding that may come with the storm. But people like Miranda Jenkins decided to take it a step further.
The opportunity came for me to have an empty house. I was like, hey, I am able to fill a need in this community right now.
Jenkins is the site director for Women's Recovery Center, Hope Farms. Since all residents have been evacuated, she decided to open up shared space areas as an official community center during the storm. Jenkins asked neighbors to bring their own.
I'm telling them to bring bedding, like if you have bedding to sleep on, if you have an air mattress that you can bring it.
Neighbors are asked to bring their own hygiene products and chargers. Now, keep in mind that if you come with me, this space right behind me will be treated as a community center for anyone in need of shelter during the storm. In Bainbridge, I'm AJ Douglas for ABC 27.
Anything else exciting going on? Of course.
Hey, my man. For something new? Anytime. Hey, Lexus, read my newest message.
Our spot, sunrise.
The Lexus RX.
Looking good.
Always.
Never lose your edge.
Get special offers on the 2024 RX 350.
The Americans here on the ground and the Iraqis. 18,000 tons. Patatas. Ismail? David. For ground zero from Hurricane Michael. You can see just home after home.
David, nice to meet you.
This was your view.
My favorite view.
Thank you very much.
I'm Marisa Giorgio, live from our studio in Missoula, Montana, and this is America Tonight.
Scripps News takes you ahead of the headlines.
We're reading between the lines there.
America Tonight on Scripps News. Find with an antenna or on your favorite streaming app.
As a Florida native, I know some of our favorite things in the Big Bend in South Georgia happen outside. And the weather is the last thing you want throwing off your plans. That's why the First to Know weather team is always tracking the changes outside that will impact your life. We will let you know first before they arrive, so you and your family can stay ahead of Mother Nature.
First to Know weather, only on ABC 27. It's about time to watch on your time. Whether it's going to be mostly this, or partly this, or maybe grab this. Now stream local weather on this. ABC 27. It's about time we fit into your schedule. Streaming local weather 24/7. Search WTXL on your device.
I didn't hear anybody knock. Shall we proceed?
My boss is the best shot in the whole world. Isn't it exciting?
They call you the rifleman.
Just make it good.
We are ABC 27 News in your neighborhood.
In Havana,
I'm your ABC 27 neighborhood reporter in Collegetown.
With more local reporters living where you live.
in Valdosta,
In Panacea, spending more time in your neighborhood to listen and raise your voice. We're here, we're in it, we're with you. We are ABC 27 in your neighborhood.
We carry the legacy of those who paved the way. We aren't just competitors.
Instead of just being a part of it, we are going to be a leader in the sport. We are looking forward to continuing to make history.
We are symbols of resilience and pride.
Only the best of the best survive.
A Bounce HBCU yearbook, a year-long salute to historically black colleges and universities.
3, 2, 1, go.
Many people along the Wakulla County coast are heading out and packing up ahead of Helene. I'm Kenzie Krieger in Panacea, where we've got a couple raindrops and some wind coming in, and we know flooding is an issue for neighbors here. Brian Peters lives near the water. He spent the day packing up his things and is getting ready to leave the area. The Board of County Commissioners has issued a mandatory evacuation for all of Wakulla County no later than 8 Thursday morning.
I mean, it's making my hair stand up now just thinking about it, because if that size of storm comes in here, a lot of people are going to be displaced and hurt.
No shelters will be opened in Wakulla County. County leaders say there are shelters available in Leon County. With emergency management, and they said they cannot respond while the hurricane is happening, but they will try to get to you as soon as possible. In Panacea, I'm Kenzie Krieger with ABC 27.
Flooding is a
a big concern for local businesses here, especially with severe weather on the way. I'm Leanne Abu Tarbouch, your Thomasville neighborhood reporter. I'm checking in with a local boot store on Smith Avenue, an area that's no stranger to heavy foot traffic and flooding. Smith Avenue is one of the busiest areas in town, and it's also one of the most flood-prone. I checked in with Mason Steele, the manager of a local boot store, as they prepare for the storm.
It'll flood. I mean, that intersection out there, a lot of standing water. It's a low-lying area, so you're going to end up seeing a bunch of water accumulate real fast.
He tells me the store's parking lot is where it gets hit the worst.
Pretty dangerous how much water accumulates right there. It's like it doesn't drain fast enough.
With drainage problem on Smith Avenue, other nearby businesses are getting sandbags in case the flooding becomes severe. Steele says they're keeping an eye on the weather. For now, they'll close tomorrow and reopen later on Friday. He tells me if it does get worse, they will have to close both days. In Thomasville, I'm Leanne Abu Tarbouch, ABC 27.
All right, we do have some rain that's been pushing in from the southeast, moving northwest. Some of the stronger activity is over northern Thomas County, set to move into southwestern sections of Colquitt and most of Mitchell County, as well as the northeast corner of Grady County. So some gusty winds can come with that, 40 to 50, some lightning flashes as well. Less frequent lightning, but we'll start to see this rain in the Suwannee Valley, also moving in a general northwesterly direction and starting to fill in, especially around and east of Highway 319. So we'll monitor that accordingly. There can be some quick little gusts with that, but kind of indirect from what we have with the beast that will be Hurricane Helene. This orange shade indicates where we have the expanse of tropical storm force winds, at least 39 miles per hour. But that little red spot is where we have the hurricane force gusts, and that's putting things in perspective. There's a broad field of winds around and above 40 miles per hour, but when it comes to 75 mile per hour winds, it's very much contained around the center. And that's how it's going to be when it comes closer to the shores of the Big Bend. We do have to monitor how a front and a little swirl of low pressure kind of interacts with the overall flow here in the northeastern Gulf. Plus, if the storm itself can intensify pretty quickly, that can also dictate the little wobbles and wiggles that it can have in its path moving north-northeast from where it is through the northeastern Gulf in about 24 to 30 hours. So we'll show a couple of runs of our forecast and focus data, a couple different versions. There's more than just one. We do see the onset of steadier rain and east winds across the region tomorrow morning. We'll see that rain eventually get a little heavier as we start getting the closer approach of the first little outer band in the afternoon time frame. Winds will start to pick up. I think most areas will have mostly an east to northeast wind pattern, but a lot of it will be determined by where the eye eventually goes. The strongest winds in a hurricane are usually within about 25 miles of the eye wall. So that's going to be a crucial point where we figure out where that goes in determining which areas get those more intense, strong gusts and more sustained winds. That can be within the 319 corridor of the Tallahassee Metro and even into South Georgia. That's not impossible to happen, but it's not a given. It's not a guarantee that will happen just like that. There are other versions that show maybe a little more of a nudge towards the east. We've seen a little lesser nudge in the last few runs of late afternoon data. Another one that kind of shows the eye right over the bay, and then that kind of moves a little bit towards the Osceola River. Any little 10, 20, 25 mile jog one way or another will make a huge difference, but it's still going to have some huge impacts across many, if not all of our region when it comes to wind and especially when it comes to power. Our own forecast model does show a little bit more of that tropical storm wind activity moving inland as we go into late tomorrow, but it's all out here by Friday morning and we have sunshine returning.
What Donald Trump plans to do, what is in effect a national sales tax, a Trump tax on gas, on food, on clothing, on over-the-counter medication. And you know, economists have done the math. Donald Trump's plan would cost a typical family $3,900 a year. When I'm elected president, I will fight to bring down costs for working and middle-class Americans.
It's about time to watch on your time. Not just when news is on the air, but streaming 24/7. At this time, or this time, or anytime. The only way to stream 24/7 ABC 27. It's about time we fit into your schedule. Streaming local news 24/7. Search for WTXL on your device.
His identity, a mystery.
Who is he?
His sword, lightning fast.
With greatest potential for areas north and east of the track at Helene. Helene will be an expansive system with impacts occurring well away from the storm center. Preparations should be completed well before impacts begin. The time to act is now. Here is the hazardous weather outlook. This hazardous weather outlook is for portions of north and central Georgia. For this afternoon and tonight, periods of heavy rainfall and localized flash flooding, which are not associated with Helene.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, a lot of people believe we are living in the last days. Current news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm, a new series, now playing only on Channel 1 Atlanta.
Please relay any information about observed severe weather to the National Weather Service while following all local and state guidelines. The current time is 6:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Atlanta Climate Summary for this evening, as of 4 p.m., September 25th, 2024. Today's high temperature of 86 degrees occurred at noon. The normal high is 82. The record high is 93 degrees, which was last set in 2019. Today's low temperature of 67 degrees occurred at 3:06 p.m. The normal low is 63. The record low is 45 degrees, which was set in 1887. 0.74 inches of precipitation fell today, which brings the monthly total to 1.89 inches. This is 1.24. A tropical storm warning remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Harris, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lawrence, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Trutland, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, Wheeler, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. The Atlanta Climate Summary for this evening, as of 4 p.m., September 25th, 2024. Today's high temperature of 86 degrees occurred at noon. The normal high is 82. The record high is 93 degrees, which was last set in 2019. Today's low temperature of 67 degrees occurred at 3:06 p.m. The normal low is 63. The record low is 45 degrees, which was set in 1887. 0.74 inches of precipitation fell today, which brings the monthly total to 1.89 inches. This is 1.24 inches below the normal amount of 3.13 inches for September. The total precipitation for the year now stands at 45.43 inches, which is 7.52 inches above normal. There were no heating degree days today. This leaves the monthly total at 0. The yearly total since July 1st is 0. There were 12 cooling degree days today. This brings the monthly total to 312. The yearly total since January 1st is 2,304. Sunset tonight is at 7:30 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow is at 7:29 a.m. A tropical storm watch remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. Here are the 6 p.m. weather observations from around the area. At Atlanta, with a thunderstorm, the temperature was 67 degrees, dew point 64 degrees, relative humidity 90%, wind north at 13 miles an hour, pressure was 29.93 inches and falling. Around Atlanta, at Chamblee, with heavy rain and fog, it was 64, wind north at 10. At Marietta, with rain and fog, it was 66, wind east at 3. At Mableton, with rain and fog.
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, a lot of people believe we are living in the last days. Current news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm, a new series, now playing only on Channel 1 Atlanta.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. Hurricane Helene now intensifying, closing in on Florida. Potentially a Category 4 hurricane when it hits the U.S. Ginger Z standing by with the new timing just in. Also tonight, the deadly city bus hijacking. A passenger is killed. And a man lunging through the door of a courthouse, setting off an explosion. First tonight, the growing strength of this hurricane set to slam into the U.S., set for a direct hit on Florida. Multiple states will feel this, and the images coming in already. The storm hitting Cancun on its way here. Tonight, Florida expecting a major storm surge, mandatory evacuations, moving patients from a hospital. Whit Johnson is there, and Ginger Z has the new hurricane forecast just in moments ago. Also tonight, an explosion rocking a courthouse. Authorities say the suspect lunged through the doors of a California courthouse, throwing a bag with a homemade bomb past the security detector. Multiple injuries, some sent to the hospital. The deadly hijacking of a city bus in Los Angeles. Police chasing that hijacked bus for an hour. The driver and passengers held at gunpoint. One passenger was killed, and how this ended. The major escalation tonight in the Middle East. The Israeli military now signaling a possible ground offensive now into southern Lebanon. Ian Pannell is there. In this country tonight, 41 days now until the election. Vice President Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania on the economy, promising tax cuts for the middle class, help for first-time homebuyers, a major deduction for Americans starting small businesses, and her argument tonight on manufacturing in this country and what she says really happened under Donald Trump. Tonight here, Trump's response. Tonight, U.S. intelligence now confirming they have briefed Donald Trump on assassination threats coming from Iran. Trump with a blunt response tonight. There is news this evening after that American woman is believed to be the first person to ever use a so-called suicide pod in Switzerland. The arrests and what the doctor who was there is now saying tonight. In New York City, an Amtrak train derailing at Penn Station. The startling moment, a famous rock star's dog is snatched by a coyote and his wife then racing to save it. And America Strong tonight, the strangers hiking up a mountain. They struck up a conversation, what they learned, and what one of them then did. It's extraordinary.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight here with the breaking news. Tonight, Florida bracing for what could be a major Category 4 hurricane. Helene is now forecast to make landfall with winds up to 130 miles an hour sometime tomorrow. This storm is massive and growing in strength at this hour. Tonight, there are states of emergency now in Florida, Georgia, and now North Carolina and Virginia, too. At this hour, Helene is a Category 1 hurricane, 460 miles south of Tampa, growing in strength. Parts of Florida could see up to a 20-foot storm surge, and torrential rain up to 18 inches could stretch all the way to the Carolinas. Hurricane hunters from NOAA flying in the eye of the hurricane. Its center you can see now clearly formed. On the ground tonight, Helene striking Cancun, Mexico with tropical storm force winds and flooding rain already. Mandatory evacuations in place for 20 of Florida's counties tonight. You can see there the heavy traffic. This is Interstate 4 heading out of Tampa. Ginger Z is standing by with the new forecast just in, the timing and track of this hurricane. And Whit Johnson is in Florida on the emergency preparations. He leads us off tonight from Tampa.
Tonight, after hammering Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula as a tropical storm, flooding streets and taking down trees in Cancun, Helene is now a hurricane, gaining strength on a collision course with Florida. Interstate 4 packed with vehicles. Tallahassee, Florida's capital city of more than 200,000 people, directly in the path. Chris Osmar among many leaving today.
I got a bad feeling about this one. We've never taken that direct hit.
If our community remains central in Helene's path as forecasted, we will see unprecedented damage like nothing we have ever experienced before as a community.
Put it back.
Our Victor Oquendo, south of Tallahassee, found John Turner packing up his waterfront restaurant, taking everything from the food to the furniture.
Being on the water, this is a different ball game, obviously, because you don't know with the storm surge what you're going to come back to, what you're going to lose.
And with the potential of 15 feet of storm surge, your restaurant...
Yeah, we may have one when we come back, we may not.
Down the coast, ambulances transferring patients out of low-lying Pasadena Hospital in St. Petersburg. And extreme measures at Tampa General Hospital, too.
This is what's called an aqua fence, a portable barrier that officials hope will help divert floodwater away from the hospital and keep the patients safe.
Helene expected to knock out power across the state. Officials say 18,000 linemen are already staged in high-risk areas and more are on the way.
And David, here in Tampa, you can see just how vulnerable some of these communities are right on the water. They're expecting up to 8 feet of storm surge here and up to 20 feet in the Big Bend area. Officials say the time to finalize those evacuation plans and get out is right now. David.
It'll look a lot different 24 hours from now. Whit Johnson, thanks for being there. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. She's in Treasure Island, Florida tonight. Ginger, I know the National Hurricane Center is out with its newest forecast. You've been studying it. What do you see?
So, David, I see that the catastrophic and life-threatening flash flood threat is probably the biggest thing we have to talk about because it goes well inland. We're talking all the way to western North Carolina. We'll explain all that. But right now, the center of Helene is more than 440 miles to my southwest from the Bay Area here. And so it's going to jet north right now at 12 miles per hour and then rocket right into the eastern panhandle, that Big Bend of Florida, as a Category 4, 130 mile per hour max sustained winds. But do you see how it's still a Cat 1? Overnight into early Friday, south of Atlanta. That's why we're worried about trees down, and we're talking trees into homes all over Georgia and North Florida, and then also power lines and power outages. Macon, Georgia's in a hurricane warning, down to Tallahassee and Apalachicola, over to Cedar Key and Crystal River. Tampa Bay still in a hurricane watch, and those tropical storm warnings still up from Miami to Charleston to Asheville. And Asheville is part of why I want to talk about the rain and the flash flood threat. But let's first do that big surge that they've upped now on the latest forecast, 10 to 20 feet. That's like 2 stories of water pushing ahead of the storm, coming right onto land. That will easily take a home off of its foundation. So Steinhatchee down to Crystal River, Cedar Key involved there, 4 to 8 feet still for Tampa Bay. The winds will easily be hurricane force all the way nearly to Atlanta. So I think that could impact flights even early on Friday morning. And then that significant flash flooding. David, Blue Ridge Mountains, when you've got 12 to 18 inches of rain from the last couple of days and Helene, not going to be good.
So many states in the path of this, Ginger Zee. We are glad you're there as well. Please, you and the crew, stay safe, and we'll watch first thing in the morning on GMA. Thank you. In the meantime, we're also following a terrifying scene at a California courthouse. A man lunging through the doors, setting off an explosion. This played out in Santa Maria, California. Authorities say the suspect throwing a bag with a homemade bomb right into the courthouse. Multiple people injured, some sent to the hospital. Melissa Adan tonight from California.
The blast rocking this courthouse in Santa Maria, California, just before 9 a.m. Fire trucks racing to the scene.
This was a small fire. There's no spread into the structure.
Courthouse officials tell ABC News a man lunged into the courthouse doors, then tossed a small bag past the weapons screening station. An IED inside exploding, sending 6 people to the hospital. Shane Mellon was in one of the courtrooms.
We were sitting in the courtroom and I heard an extremely loud bang, and the bailiff inside of the courtroom went and tried to see what was going on.
That bailiff sending the judge into his chambers and evacuating others from the building.
There was some sweater or something sitting there smoldering, and someone screaming, and 4 or 5 individuals trying to restrain that guy.
Officials say the suspect tried to run to his car, but was chased by a guard and taken into custody. Today, law enforcement seen swarming his neighborhood.
David, many people may recognize that courthouse as the one where Michael Jackson stood trial years ago. Meantime, police closing off that area and searching for any other possible explosives. David.
ABC's Melissa Adan with us. Melissa, thank you. To another disturbing scene playing out in California, the deadly hijacking of a Los Angeles city bus. A suspect holding the driver and passengers at gunpoint, killing one of the passengers. Matt Gutman from Los Angeles tonight.
Tonight, this dramatic video showing that hijacked Metro bus, this slow-speed chase through the heart of Los Angeles, dozens of police cruisers in pursuit. The driver and several passengers held at gunpoint, the front of the bus seen flashing the message, emergency, 911, call police.
There's a man with a gun inside, possible hostage.
Just before 1 a.m. this morning, authorities alerted to the hijacking, but as they tried to engage, the bus rolled away and that pursuit began.
We have units in pursuit.
Officers seen throwing spike strips to puncture the bus's tires. Finally, the bus brought to a halt, SWAT teams swarming. A stun grenade deployed, the bus driver then rescued through the window.
The bus driver is unharmed. The second passenger that was found on the bus who had self-barricaded in the back of the bus, they were shaken but unharmed.
Officers finding one of the passengers on the bus suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He later died from his injuries.
David, the suspect was taken in without incident and booked on suspicion of murder. The LAPD says it's still investigating the motive behind this alleged hijacking. David.
Just an extraordinary scene playing out. Matt, thank you. Overseas tonight, the Israeli military now signaling a possible ground offensive into southern Lebanon after.
And Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but Helene's fast-forward speed will allow strong, damaging winds. especially in gusts, to penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars 28.88 inches. A tropical storm warning remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Harris, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lawrence, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Trutland, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, Wheeler, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. A tropical storm watch remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. The Atlanta Climate Summary for this evening, as of 4 p.m., September 25th, 2024. Today's high temperature of 86 degrees occurred at noon. The normal high is 82. The record high is 93 degrees, which was last set in 2019. Today's low temperature of 67 degrees occurred at 3:06 p.m. The normal low is 63. The record low is 45 degrees, which was set in 1887. 0.74 inches of precipitation fell today, which brings the monthly total to 1.89 inches. This is 1.24 inches below the normal amount of 3.13 inches for September. The total precipitation for the year now stands at 45.43 inches, which is 7.52 inches above.
In the 40s and 50s with gusts to near 70 miles per hour, higher numbers right along the immediate coast. Look at the surge, guys. This is huge, and you need to pay close attention to this. 5 to 8 in the Tampa area, 8 to 12 in Pasco. Now, Jen Titus is up there in Citrus County. Good news, but kind of. That number has come down to 10 to 15. They had 7 last time. We're thinking 10 to 15. So even if we get 10, that's going to be, 3 feet more than what we had last time. So it's going to do a lot. Here's the timing. All of this, the weather gets worse tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then in the evening hours, obviously. We will get better early Friday morning. That's the surge. This is for the Tampa Bay area because it's the tides in St. Pete. But look, the surge starts coming up early in the morning, but really from about 3 or 4 p.m. through about 2 in the morning, that's when we're going to see most of it. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the peak, but that's 5 to 8 foot. So a lot of this is going to happen overnight, but you will notice those water levels coming up. This is the reason why right here. Look at the yellow. That is a large swath of tropical storm force winds. The larger that is, the more water it can push. And then watch as we get towards about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the winds turn more southerly and then southwesterly. That's why the surge really starts to come up in the afternoon for tomorrow, and then you can see it'll slowly be falling apart. Now, how does that affect us here specifically? Let's head over to Colleen right now, and she's going to take a closer look.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, so going county by county here, it's very important that you know the difference of the storm surge between you and your neighbors because we have big changes here. So as Bobby just mentioned, the latest updates, we have a surge 10 to 15 feet expected for Citrus County and then 8 to 12 feet for Pasco and Hernando County. Now we're going to move down to Tampa Bay. I did want to notice the winds. Notice the winds 50 to 70 miles per hour, could even be stronger than that. Now that we're expecting this to intensify to a Category 4 storm ahead of landfall. Going into Tampa Bay, we have 5 to 8 feet storm surge expected. That did updates. That update is about normal to what we had earlier today. And thank you, Bobby. My graphics weren't advancing there. So there we go. And then we also in Sarasota, Manatee County, we have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge that is expected. So that remains about the same. Now that did update earlier today, but with this latest 5 o'clock update, that has not changed. And then moving into our inland locations, we are still expecting some severe weather out that way. Not necessarily storm surge, but you have to be aware that these are counties that are getting brushed by those outer bands where we have those stronger winds, and that's where we could have some isolated tornadoes start to spring up as well. Of course, we are keeping you updated online through your hurricane headquarters, and anytime you have a question, please make sure you go to our website, download our app, so you have that information in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's start right there. I'm going to start with tracking this where we're looking at it right now. We got those 5 p.m. numbers. Shows that it was at 85 mile per hour winds, right? And you can see the bigger picture there. This thing is looking good. It really is. It's getting a little bit better. There is some dry air kind of mixing in just a little bit right around the center, but not a lot. And we do expect it to continue to intensify as it goes through the evening hours. Now, that's all of the recon that's out there right now. We've got plane, that's Lakeland Linder. That's our NOAA National Hurricane Center. Miss Piggy, that's what I'm trying to think, and Kermit. Those are the name of the planes coming out of Lakeland Linder Air Force Base. They're also flying flights that are around it. So they're not only looking at the storm itself, but they're flying flights around the storm to see what the atmosphere looks on top of it and in front of it. And because of that, that data all goes into the models and you get a better model solution in theory, right? And you do, and that's why they do that. So here's that track I just showed you. And this has been an increase in wind speed. Now, again, when you see these numbers, they look scary. 130 mile per hour winds, that's by tomorrow afternoon, right? That's going to be right near the center. It's going to be in a small area right in here, okay? We are way over here. We will not see those winds. But it could be close to 130 right there, at least some of the highest winds, probably be 100, 120 as it makes landfall for most areas. And that will be tomorrow evening just after sunset. Unfortunately, it looks like near the Tallahassee area, right? Just along their coast there. There you go with the blue. Look at the blue on this. That is tropical storm warnings that go up into the mountains of North Carolina. That's how far, because it's such a big storm, and when it goes on land, it will weaken, but that wind field spreads out. So you take those real high winds, 100, 120, 130 mile per hour winds, plus all the other wind, and you spread it all out as it falls apart. And that's why you get, that's amazing to see that. All right, now let's talk tropical storm forecast models. You can see most of them do take it up there towards the Tallahassee area. Not too concerned about a wobble. There will be wobbles, but what's going to happen is this thing's going to pick up speed. It already has started. It was 10 knots earlier. It's now 12. It's going to continue to pick up a little bit of speed. And once it does that, it usually gets kind of on a beeline and it can get going to where it needs to go, right? All right, so surge 5 to 8 foot for the Tampa Bay area. We will see winds generally in the 40s and 50s with gusts to near 70 miles per hour. Higher numbers right along the immediate coast. Look at the surge, guys. This is huge, and you need to pay close attention to this. 5 to 8 in the Tampa area. 8 to 12 in Pasco. Now, Jen Titus is up there in Citrus County. Good news, but kind of. That number has come down to 10 to 15. They had 7 last time. We're thinking 10 to 15. So even if we get 10, that's going to be, 3 feet more than what we had last time. So it's going to do a lot. Here's the timing. All of this, the weather gets worse tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then in the evening hours, obviously. We will get better early Friday morning. That's the surge. This is for the Tampa Bay area because it's the tides in St. Pete. But look, the surge starts coming up early in the morning, but really from about 3 or 4 p.m. through about 2 in the morning, That's when we're going to see most of it. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the peak, but that's 5 to 8 foot. So a lot of this is going to happen overnight, but you will notice those water levels coming up. This is the reason why right here. Look at the yellow. That is a large swath of tropical storm force winds. The larger that is, the more water it can push. And then watch as we get towards about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the winds turn more southerly and then southwesterly. That's why the surge really starts to come up in the afternoon for tomorrow, and then you can see it'll slowly be falling apart. Now, how does that affect us here specifically? Let's head over to Colleen right now, and she's going to take a closer look.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, so going county by county here, it's very important that you know the difference of the storm surge between you and your neighbors because we have big changes here. So as Bobby just mentioned, the latest updates, we have a surge 10 to 15 feet expected for Citrus County and then 8 to 12 feet for Pasco and Hernando County. Now we're going to move down to Tampa Bay. I did want to notice the winds. Notice the winds 50 to 70 miles per hour, could even be stronger than that now that we're expecting this to intensify to a Category 4 storm ahead of landfall. Going into Tampa Bay, we have 5 to 8 feet storm surge expected. That That update is about normal to what we had earlier today. And thank you, Bobby. My graphics weren't advancing there. So there we go. And then we also in Sarasota, Manatee County, we have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge that is expected. So that remains about the same. Now that did update earlier today, but with this latest 5 o'clock update, that has not changed. And then moving into our inland locations, we are still expecting some severe weather out that way, not necessarily storm surge, but you have to be aware that these are counties that are getting brushed by those outer bands where we have those stronger winds, and that's where we could have some isolated tornadoes start to spring up as well. Of course, we are keeping you updated online through your hurricane headquarters, and anytime you have a question, please make sure you go to our website, download our app, so you have that information in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's start right there. I'm going to start with tracking this where we're looking at it right now. We got those 5 p.m. numbers, shows that it was at 85 mile per hour winds, right? And you can see the bigger picture there. This thing is looking good. It really is. It's getting a little bit better. There is some dry air kind of mixing in just a little bit right around the center, but not a lot. And we do expect it to continue to intensify as it goes through the evening hours. Now, that's all of the recon that's out there right now. We've got plane, that's Lakeland Linder. That's our NOAA National Hurricane Center. Miss Piggy, that's what I'm trying to think, and Kermit. Those are the name of the planes coming out of Lakeland Linder Air Force Base. They're also flying flights that are around it. So they're not only looking at the storm itself, but they're flying flights around the storm to see what the atmosphere looks on top of it and in front of it. And because of that, that data all goes into the models and you get a better model solution in theory, right? And you do, and that's why they do that. So here's that track I just showed you. And this has been an increase in wind speed. Now, again, when we see these numbers, they look scary. 130 mile per hour winds, that's by tomorrow afternoon, right? That's going to be right near the center. It's going to be in a small area right in here, okay? We are way over here. We will not see those winds. But it could be close to 130 right there, at least some of the highest winds, probably be 100, 120 as it makes landfall for most areas. And that will be tomorrow evening just after sunset. Unfortunately, it looks like near the Tallahassee area, right? Just along their coast there. There you go with the blue. Look at the blue on this. That is tropical storm warnings that go up into the mountains of North Carolina. That's how far, because it's such a big storm, and when it goes on land, it will weaken, but that wind field spreads out. So you take those real high winds, 100, 120, 130 mile per hour winds, plus all the other wind, and you spread it all out as it falls apart. And that's why you get, that's amazing to see that. All right, now let's talk tropical storm forecast models. You can see most of them do take it up there towards the Tallahassee area. Not too concerned about a wobble. There will be wobbles, but what's going to happen is this thing's going to pick up speed. It already has started. It was 10 knots earlier. It's now 12. It's going to continue to pick up a little bit of speed. And once it does that, it usually gets kind of on a beeline and it can get going to where it needs to go, right? All right, so surge 5 to 8 foot for the Tampa Bay area. We will see winds generally in the 40s and 50s with gusts to near 70 miles per hour. Higher numbers right along the immediate coast. Look at the surge, guys. This is huge, and you need to pay close attention to this. 5 to 8 in the Tampa area. 8 to 12 in Pasco. Now, Jen Titus is up there in Citrus County. Good news, but kind of. That number has come down to 10 to 15. They had 7 last time. We're thinking 10 to 15. So even if we get 10, that's going to be, 3 feet more than what we had last time. So it's going to do a lot. Here's the timing. All of this, the weather gets worse tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then in the evening hours, obviously. We will get better early Friday morning. That's the surge. This is for the Tampa Bay area because it's the tides in St. Pete. But look, the surge starts coming up early in the morning, but really from about 3 or 4 p.m. through about 2 in the morning, that's when we're going to see most of it. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the peak, but that's 5 to 8 foot. So a lot of this is going to happen overnight, but you will notice those water levels coming up. This is the reason why right here. Look at the yellow. That is a large swath of tropical storm force winds. The larger that is, the more water it can push. And then watch as we get towards about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the winds turn more southerly and then southwesterly. That's why the surge really starts to come up in the afternoon for tomorrow, and then you can see it'll slowly be falling apart. Now, how does that affect us here specifically? Let's head over to Colleen right now, and she's going to take a closer look.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, so going county by county here, it's very important that you know the difference of the storm surge between you and your neighbors because we have big changes here. So as Bobby just mentioned, the latest updates, we have a surge 10 to 15 feet expected for Citrus County and then 8 to 12 feet for Pasco and Hernando County. Now we're going to move down to Tampa Bay. I did want to notice the winds. Notice the winds 50 to 70 miles per hour, could even be stronger than that now that we're expecting this to intensify to a Category 4 storm ahead of landfall. Going into Tampa Bay, we have 5 to 8 feet storm surge expected. That did update. That update is about normal to what we had earlier today. And thank you, Bobby. My graphics weren't advancing there. So there we go. And then we also in Sarasota, Manatee County, we have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge that is expected. So that remains about the same. Now that did update earlier today, but with this latest 5 o'clock update, that has not changed. And then moving into our inland locations, we are still expecting some severe weather out that way. Not necessarily storm surge, but you have to be aware that these are counties that are getting brushed by those outer bands where we have those stronger winds, and that's where we could have some isolated tornadoes start to spring up as well. Of course, we are keeping you updated online through your hurricane headquarters, and anytime you have a question, please make sure you go to our website, download our app, so you have that information in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's start right there. I'm going to start with tracking this where we're looking at it right now. We got those 5 p.m. numbers, shows that it was at 85 mile per hour winds, right? And you can see the bigger picture there. This thing is looking good. It really is. It's getting a little bit better. There is some dry air kind of mixing in just a little bit right around the center, but not a lot. And we do expect it to continue to intensify as it goes through the evening hours. Now, that's all of the recon that's out there right now. We've got plane, that's Lakeland Linder. That's our NOAA National Hurricane Center. Miss Piggy, that's what I'm trying to think, and Kermit. Those are the name of the planes coming out of Lakeland Linder Air Force Base. They're also flying flights that are around it. So they're not only looking at the storm itself, but they're flying flights around the storm to see what the atmosphere looks on top of it and in front of it. And because of that, that data all goes into the models and you get a better model solution in theory, right? And you do, and that's why they do that. So here's that track I just showed you. And this has been an increase in wind speed. Now, again, when you see these numbers, they look scary. 130 mile per hour winds, that's by tomorrow afternoon, right? That's going to be right near the center. It's going to be in a small area right in here, okay? We are way over here. We will not see those winds. But it could be close to 130 right there, at least some of the highest winds, probably 100, 120 as it makes landfall for most areas. And that will be tomorrow evening just after sunset. Unfortunately, it looks like near the Tallahassee area, right? Just along their coast there. There you go with the blue. Look at the blue on this. That is tropical storm warnings that go up into the mountains of North Carolina. That's how far, because it's such a big storm, and when it goes on land, it will weaken, but that wind field spreads out. So you take those real high winds, 100, 120, 130 mile per hour winds, plus all the other wind, and you spread it all out as it falls apart. And that's why you get, that's amazing to see that. All right, now let's talk tropical storm forecast models. You can see most of them do take it up there towards the Tallahassee area. Not too concerned about a wobble. There will be wobbles, but what's going to happen is this thing's going to pick up speed. It already has started. It was 10 knots earlier. It's now 12. It's going to continue to pick up a little bit of speed, and once it does that, it usually gets kind of on a beeline, and it can get going to where it needs to go, right? All right, so surge, 5 to 8 foot for the Tampa Bay area. We will see winds generally in the 40s and 50s with gusts to near 70 miles per hour. Higher numbers right along the immediate coast. Look at the surge, guys. This is huge, and you need to pay close attention to this. 5 to 8 in the Tampa area. 8 to 12 in Pasco. Now, Jen Titus is up there in Citrus County. Good news, but kind of. That number has come down to 10 to 15. They had 7 last time. We're thinking 10 to 15. So even if we get 10, that's going to be, 3 feet more than what we had last time. So it's going to do a lot. Here's the timing. All of this, the weather gets worse tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then in the evening hours, obviously. We will get better early Friday morning. That's the surge. This is for the Tampa Bay area because it's the tides in St. Pete. But look, the surge starts coming up early in the morning, but really from about 3 or 4 p.m. through about 2 in the morning, that's when we're going to see most of it. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the peak, but that's 5 to 8 foot. So a lot of this is going to happen overnight, but you will notice those water levels coming up. This is the reason why right here. Look at the yellow. That is a large swath of tropical storm force winds. The larger that is, the more water it can push. And then watch as we get towards about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the winds turn more southerly and then southwesterly. That's why the surge really starts to come up in the afternoon for tomorrow, and then you can see it'll slowly be falling apart. Now, how does that affect us here specifically? Let's head over to Colleen right now, and she's going to take a closer look.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, so going county by county here, it's very important that you know the difference of the storm surge between you and your neighbors because we have big changes here. So as Bobby just mentioned, the latest updates, we have a surge 10 to 15 feet expected for Citrus County and then 8 to 12 feet for Pasco and Hernando County. Now we're going to move down to Tampa Bay. I did want to notice the winds. Notice the winds 50 to 70 miles per hour, could even be stronger than that now that we're expecting this to intensify to a Category 4 storm ahead of landfall. Going into Tampa Bay, we have 5 to 8 feet storm surge expected. That did update. That update is about normal to what we had earlier today. And thank you, Bobby. My graphics weren't advancing there. So there we go. And then we also in Sarasota, Manatee County, we have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge that is expected. So that remains about the same. Now that did update earlier today, but with this latest 5 o'clock update, that has not changed. And then moving into our inland locations, we are still expecting some severe weather out that way. Not necessarily storm surge, but you have to be aware that these are counties that are getting brushed by those outer bands where we have those stronger winds, and that's where we could have some isolated tornadoes start to spring up as well. Of course, we are keeping you updated online through your hurricane headquarters, and anytime you have a question, please make sure you go to our website, download our app, so you have that information in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's start right there. I'm going to start with tracking this where we're looking at it right now. We got those 5 p.m. numbers, shows that it was at 85 mile per hour winds, right? And you can see the bigger picture there. This thing is looking good. It really is. It's getting a little bit better. There is some dry air kind of mixing in just a little bit right around the center, but not a lot. And we do expect it to continue to intensify as it goes through the evening hours. Now, that's all of the recon that's out there right now. We've got a plane, that's Lakeland Linder. That's our NOAA National Hurricane Center. Miss Piggy, that's what I'm trying to think, and Kermit. Those are the name of the planes coming out of Lakeland Linder Air Force Base. They're also flying flights that are around it. So they're not only looking at the storm itself, but they're flying flights around the storm to see what the atmosphere looks on top of it and in front of it. And because of that, that data all goes into the models and you get a better model solution in theory, right? And you do, and that's why they do that. So here's that track I just showed you. And this has been an increase in wind speed. Now, again, when you see these numbers, they look scary. 130 mile per hour winds, that's by tomorrow afternoon, right? That's going to be right near the center. It's going to be in a small area right in here, okay? We are way over here. We will not see those winds. But it could be close to 130 right there, at least some of the highest winds, probably be 100, 120 as it makes landfall for most areas. And that will be tomorrow evening just after sunset. Unfortunately, it looks like near the Tallahassee area, right? Just along their coast there. There you go with the blue. Look at the blue on this. That is tropical storm warnings that go up into the mountains of North Carolina. That's how far, because it's such a big storm, and when it goes on land, it will weaken, but that wind field spreads out. So you take those real high winds, 100, 120, 130 mile per hour winds, plus all the other wind, and you spread it all out as it falls apart. And that's why you get, that's amazing to see that. All right, now let's talk tropical storm forecast models. You can see most of them do take it up there towards the Tallahassee area. Not too concerned about a wobble. There will be wobbles, but what's going to happen is this thing's going to pick up speed. It already has started. It was 10 knots earlier. It's now 12. It's going to continue to pick up a little bit of speed. And once it does that, it usually gets kind of on a beeline and it can get going to where it needs to go, right? All right, so surge 5 to 8 foot for the Tampa Bay area. We will see winds generally in the 40s and 50s with gusts to near 70 miles per hour. Higher numbers right along the immediate coast. Look at the surge, guys. This is huge, and you need to pay close attention to this. 5 to 8 in the Tampa area. 8 to 12 in Pasco. Now, Jen Titus is up there in Citrus County. Good news, but kind of. That number has come down to 10 to 15. They had 7 last time. We're thinking 10 to 15. So even if we get 10, that's going to be, 3 feet more than what we had last time. So it's going to do a lot. Here's the timing. All of this, the weather gets worse tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then in the evening hours, obviously. We will get better early Friday morning. That's the surge. This is for the Tampa Bay area because it's the tides in St. Pete. But look, the surge starts coming up early in the morning, but really from about 3 or 4 p.m. through about 2 in the morning, that's when we're going to see most of it. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the peak, but that's 5 to 8 foot. So a lot of this is going to happen overnight, but you will notice those water levels coming up. This is the reason why right here. Look at the yellow. That is a large swath of tropical storm force winds. The larger that is, the more water it can push. And then watch as we get towards about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the winds turn more southerly and then southwesterly. That's why the surge really starts to come up in the afternoon for tomorrow. And then you can see it'll slowly be falling apart. Now, how does that affect us here specifically? Let's head over to Colleen right now, and she's going to take a closer look.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, so going county by county here, it's very important that you know the difference of the storm surge between you and your neighbors because we have big changes here. So as Bobby just mentioned, the latest updates, we have a surge 10 to 15 feet expected for Citrus County and then 8 to 12 feet for Pasco and Hernando County. Now we're going to move down to Tampa Bay. I did want to notice the winds. Notice the winds 50 to 70 miles per hour, could even be stronger than that now that we're expecting this to intensify to a Category 4 storm ahead of landfall. Going into Tampa Bay, we have 5 to 8 feet storm surge expected. That did update. That update is about normal to what we had earlier today. And thank you, Bobby. My graphics weren't advancing there. So there we go. And then we also in Sarasota, Manatee County, we have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge that is expected. So that remains about the same. Now that did update earlier today, but with this latest 5 o'clock update, that has not changed. And then moving into our inland locations, we are still expecting some severe weather out that way. Not necessarily storm surge, but you have to be aware that these are counties that are getting brushed by those outer bands where we have those stronger winds, and that's where we could have some isolated tornadoes start to spring up as well. Of course, we are keeping you updated online through your hurricane headquarters, and anytime you have a question, please make sure you go to our website, download our app, so you have that information in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's start right there. I'm going to start with tracking this where we're looking at it right now. We got those 5 p.m. numbers. Shows that it was at 85 mile per hour winds, right? And you can see the bigger picture there. This thing is looking good. It really is. It's getting a little bit better. There is some dry air kind of mixing in just a little bit right around the center, but not a lot. And we do expect it to continue to intensify as it goes through the evening hours. Now, that's all of the recon that's out there right now. We've got plane, that's Lakeland Linder. That's our NOAA National Hurricane Center. Miss Piggy, that's what I'm trying to think, and Kermit. Those are the name of the planes coming out of Lakeland Linder Air Force Base. They're also flying flights that are around it. So they're not only looking at the storm itself, but they're flying flights around the storm to see what the atmosphere looks on top of it and in front of it. And because of that, that data all goes into the models and you get a better model solution in theory, right? And you do, and that's why they do that. So here's that track I just showed you. And this has been an increase in wind speed. Now, again, when you see these numbers, they look scary. 130 mile per hour winds, that's by tomorrow afternoon, right? That's going to be right near the center. It's going to be in a small area right in here, okay? We are way over here. We will not see those winds. But it could be close to 130 right there, at least some of the highest winds, probably 100, 120 as it makes landfall for most areas. And that will be tomorrow evening just after sunset. Unfortunately, it looks like near the Tallahassee area, right? Just along their coast there. There you go with the blue. Look at the blue on this. That is tropical storm warnings that go up into the mountains of North Carolina. That's how far, because it's such a big storm, and when it goes on land, it will weaken, but that wind field spreads out. So you take those real high winds, 100, 120, 130 mile per hour winds, plus all the other wind, and you spread it all out as it falls apart. And that's why you get, that's amazing to see that. All right, now let's talk tropical storm forecast models. You can see most of them do take it up there towards the Tallahassee area. Not too concerned about a wobble. There will be wobbles, but what's going to happen is this thing's going to pick up speed. It already has started. It was 10 knots earlier. It's now 12. It's going to continue to pick up a little bit of speed. And once it does that, it usually gets kind of on a beeline and it can get going to where it needs to go, right? All right, so surge 5 to 8 foot for the Tampa Bay area. We will see winds generally in the 40s and 50s with gusts to near 70 miles per hour. Higher numbers right along the immediate coast. Look at the surge, guys. This is huge, and you need to pay close attention to this. 5 to 8 in the Tampa area. 8 to 12 in Pasco. Now, Jen Titus is up there in Citrus County. Good news, but kind of. That number has come down to 10 to 15. They had 7 last time. We're thinking 10 to 15. So even if we get 10, that's going to be, 3 feet more than what we had last time. So it's going to do a lot. Here's the timing. All of this, the weather gets worse tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then in the evening hours, obviously. We will get better early Friday morning. That's the surge. This is for the Tampa Bay area because it's the tides in St. Pete. But look, the surge starts coming up early in the morning, but really from about 3 or 4 p.m. through about 2 in the morning, that's when we're going to see most of it. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the peak, but that's 5 to 8 foot. So a lot of this is going to happen overnight, but you will notice those water levels coming up. This is the reason why right here. Look at the yellow. That is a large swath of tropical storm force winds. The larger that is, the more water it can push. And then watch as we get towards about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the winds turn more southerly and then southwesterly. That's why the surge really starts to come up in the afternoon for tomorrow. And then you can see it'll slowly be falling apart. Now, how does that affect us here specifically? Let's head over to Colleen right now, and she's going to take a closer look.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, so going county by county here, it's very important that you know the difference of the storm surge between you and your neighbors because we have big changes here. So as Bobby just mentioned, the latest updates, we have a surge 10 to 15 feet expected for Citrus County and then 8 to 12 feet for Pasco and Hernando County. Now we're going to move down to Tampa Bay. I did want to notice the winds. Notice the winds 50 to 70 miles per hour, could even be stronger than that now that we're expecting this to intensify to a Category 4 storm ahead of landfall. Going into Tampa Bay, we have 5 to 8 feet storm surge expected. That did updates. That update is about normal to what we had earlier today. And thank you, Bobby. My graphics weren't advancing there. So there we go. And then we also in Sarasota, Manatee County, we have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge that is expected. So that remains about the same. Now that did update earlier today, but with this latest 5 o'clock update, that has not changed. And then moving into our inland locations, we are still expecting some severe weather out that way. Not necessarily storm surge, but you have to be aware that these are counties that are getting brushed by those outer bands where we have those stronger winds, and that's where we could have some isolated tornadoes start to spring up as well. Of course, we are keeping you updated online through your hurricane headquarters, and anytime you have a question, please make sure you go to our website, download our app, so you have that information in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's start right there. I'm going to start with tracking this where we're looking at it right now. We got those 5 p.m. numbers, shows that it was at 85 mile per hour winds, right? And you can see the bigger picture there. This thing is looking good. It really is. It's getting a little bit better. There is some dry air kind of mixing in just a little bit right around the center, but not a lot. And we do expect it to continue to intensify as it goes through the
happening just to the northeast, out towards Greenville, Asheville. If you've ever been to these spots, Asheville is beautiful. You have so many of these communities in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, but that orographic lift aids into that development. We have a new advisory that's coming in as of right now. It will change some impacts that are going to happen in coastal areas. Millibars have dropped now, right? It's down to 974. So that's another sign. This is where we're talking about 974. Another sign that this is strengthening. Did the storm movement change at all? Because I noticed it's moving north at 12 miles per hour. For most of this, from the last 24 hours, it's been moving west-northwest. And now you're starting to see it kind of make that northward jog throughout the eastern Atlantic. Something to watch. Wind speeds, of course, consistent at 85 miles per hour. So that's the new advisory. Cody behind me, by the way, he's letting me know no change in that storm movement. Something to be watching for when we take a broad view of overall. We are seeing that those outer edges of the storm have already dished out some impacts. We talked with Ian and Kiana and so many of our team out in the field, but these green polygons, those are flash flood warnings. Again, that is well in advance of the main threat. But when you have a waterlogged and saturated surface, there's nowhere for that water to permeate through, right? And those storm drains are already being tested. They're already getting clogged with debris. And now you have the main event that's coming in, and that's where you have a massive concern with flooding. Looking at this is the storm history with Helene so far. I brought this up earlier. When you look at that rapid intensification, you have it already going through one cycle. I'll give you an example. This was 2 p.m. yesterday, 2 p.m. today, 45 to 80, that's 35 mile per hour differential. You actually had that on the earlier advisory from 35 to 70. So this shows you it's already gone through rapid intensification, likely to do that again. Look at this. Thursday evening now, talking about a Cat 4 storm pushing and barreling through Apalachicola, the Big Bend region, and then Tallahassee. And you notice how narrow this cone is. Don't let that deceive you. That's where the center of this storm could move. When we show you the watches and warnings, this shows you the true magnitude, the true scope of those impacts. We'll tell you that the hurricane warning encompasses over 1 million people, and that includes Macon, Georgia, all the way to the Florida Gulf Coast. This is a big concern. We have teams that are already out there. I want to bring you to one right now. It's our exclusive Fox Weather Storm Tracker, Corey Gerken. He's been navigating these areas of northern Florida, and he joins us by phone right now. Kind of walk us through what's it been like today, and what are you looking at when you're looking at these new advisories that are coming in for Helene?
Well, right now, the big thing, we're just kind of scouting the area out to see, safe spots where we can safely cover this and not getting any big impacts. The new updates, I noticed Tallahassee, the National Weather Service, put out a little thing about the surge over here in the Appalachian Bay. They're talking big surge could start as early as tonight. So this area, this whole area could start going underwater tonight yet.
That is a big factor in all of this because, Corey, on top of tonight's threat, tomorrow when the real winds north of 110 miles per hour comes in, you're looking at unsurvivable storm surge. That's by the National Weather Service out of Tallahassee. That is one aspect of that. You obviously don't want to be stuck in storm surge. Nobody does. What is another concern that you have when you're trying to track just a massive system that is still strengthening?
Well, the big thing is, like I said, got to try to find a safe spot. We definitely don't want to get taken out by this thing. But the big issue of the storm is so big itself, because we're trying to figure out, the best plan. Once after the storm passes, where are we going to go to get back to power, food, the essentials and everything. It's just such a wide area. It's kind of what we've been discussing the last couple of hours now, what to do with that. I mean, it's just such a wide area it's going to cover.
It's so difficult. You almost got to get on the western side of this storm out towards Pensacola, but then you're out of the event. So it just makes it so difficult, not only for you, obviously, tracking this, but for people that are in those mandatory evacuations. They're told, okay, drive to a safer location. But when you look at all these alerts, it's scary because you keep driving to the east 2 hours, you're still in a tropical storm warning. So talking about, Corey, your experience down here, you were here with Debbie, I believe, right? And we talked about that flash flooding onset. The thing with so scary. We talked with Brandon about the pine trees, but also the roads. Once you leave I-10, I mean, you get cut off from a lot of main roads throughout this area of the country.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty much nothing but a winding jungle once you get off I-10. There's a lot of low areas where, surge obviously won't be a problem, but you'll have the freshwater flooding issue. Then you got the winds, too, so you got to worry about trees coming down. That's a big factor out here. They come down pretty easy. It doesn't, it gets wet. The slightest breeze seems to take them down. So just getting trapped out here is very, very concerning too. But yeah, with everything going so far north too, you're looking at hurricane force winds as far up to like Macon, Georgia. So it's
right.
All you can do is laugh at it right now. It's just,
yeah, sometimes that's what you have to do. You just have to respect what the Mother Nature's creating right now. And, you get your chuckles in now because the next 48, 72 hours, hard work, and there's going to be a lot of serious, damage that's underway with this. And I know for you, oftentimes people think, okay, storm trackers are getting us those visuals. But what I think is so important is that you are oftentimes the first on the scene, whether it's getting to people that are in need of aid or you come across those trees that have collapsed on roads and you got to cut through them. What is your plan through phase 1 and phase 2? Have you talked with Brandon about, do you go up into Georgia and try to get into the Carolinas? Or are you guys trying to just prep for what's going on in northern Florida throughout the entire duration of this?
It all comes down to, how significant this actually ends up being. And it seems like the updates, it keeps getting stronger and stronger. So we're honestly looking more at being stuck here for, a couple days or so. So we're fully planning on, cutting trees and trying to help out wherever we can. I don't know if there's a chance this thing could weaken. Idalia last year was supposed to come in. I think was it supposed to be Cat 4, but it had the Iowa replacement in that weekend last second. So have a situation like that. So right now we're actually planning on being stuck here because you got all these trees down. Planning on a lot of cutting.
Yeah, planning on a lot of cutting. I remember going out for Fox Weather and going out towards Ida. And as we were going in there, we were doing the same thing. Ben West and I, we were talking about we got to just be prepared for no power for a long time, and we got to have preparation. So we stopped at some local grocery stores. We stocked up. We got camping gear in case we had to be outside and MREs. What's it like for you knowing that you may be cut off? Have you had a chance to get supplies, and what does it look like at the local grocery stores and even at the gas stations? Does it seem like it's been fully tapped?
Well, actually, yeah, we stopped and got supplies up in it's gonna be it's pure chaos down here. We drove past Walmart in Perry, Florida, and the parking lot was just packed full. So yeah, we got food to last a few days and everything. It's gas stations, most of them are closed. A lot of them are boarding up the windows now. So it's kind of one of the issues too, of, like doing what we do. All these gas stations shut down, so we carry, I got 10 gallons of gas on me. Brandon has, I think, 25. So you just got to stock up on everything because, at worst case scenario, I think our best option is going to be if we have to get out of here is go west. So I think we'll get, power and everything a lot sooner. But, yeah, our vehicles are just packed so full of so much stuff right now.
That's a concern, and it's so good to talk with you, Corey, because you give us such crucial insight, of course, of what you're doing, but then I think about how locals are going through that same type of concern where if gas is out and they need to flee and get out of this in the aftermath of it, what happens if they run out of gas? So I want to bring up this cone right now. Cody, is there a way we could zoom out? Because I really want to emphasize when you're looking at the just sheer magnitude of Helene and how large it is massive on the eastern side. If you are in an evacuation zone, we tell you you don't have to fly, right? You can drive, and truly your best bet may be going out towards I-10. out towards Biloxi, Gulfport, those areas off to the west. Because if you drive east and you go out towards Jacksonville, you go out towards areas of southern Georgia, you're still dealing with all of this mess. And so it's just good, Corey, talking with you, because I know you're coming at it from your perspective as a storm tracker, but a lot of this resonates with residents and locals there. And so, Corey, thank you. Please stay safe throughout this event. And Corey and Brandon, they're just a small sample of our entire team that's out in the field. You see right here, that's 14 different team members that are going to be out in the field, bringing you those live impacts and those stories from residents. I tell you what, when you do this for a living as a meteorologist, it means something a whole lot different when you talk with people who've been through storms. I've lived through storms in South Florida, but thankfully I haven't lost my home. When you talk to people who have lost everything, it really hits home. The beginning has already started in Key West. We'll talk about what happens next on the other side of the break.
Hello, I'm former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. A lot of times you can't control the amount of sleep that you're getting. You can't fall asleep or you're tossing and turning all night. You can't get the sleep you need to stay healthy. I know, it's scary unless you use Relaxium Sleep. Relaxium Sleep is a product that's made from natural ingredients, and it usually works from the very first night you try it. It helps you stay asleep and wake up refreshed, earning your body those quality hours of sleep that it desperately needs.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people who've experienced the relief and health benefits from getting a great night's sleep and get Relaxium Sleep.
The first time I took Relaxium and I slept through the night, I thought, wow, this worked for me. I could not believe it.
Relaxium Sleep is studied, tested, and designed by a neurologist to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed.
Relaxium Sleep worked from the very first night I took it. I had more focus and mental clarity than I've had in years.
Relaxium is drug-free and not addictive, so you can take Relaxium every night and never worry about side effects. And the best part is, it can start working from the very first night.
When I take Relaxium Sleep, I sleep better than I have in years.
I wake up feeling like I've had the best night's sleep.
Stop being afraid and start sleeping your fears away with Relaxium Sleep. Your body and your mind will thank you.
Mike Huckabee is so confident that Relaxium will work for you, he's asked us to give away 1,000 bottles.
If you're not getting calm enough to go to sleep, take Relaxium Sleep. I promise you it'll work.
Get your risk-free bottle of Relaxium Sleep now. It's guaranteed to work or your money back. Visit TryRelaxium.com or call 800-317-6312. That's TryRelaxium.com or call 800-317-6312.
Do you have Medicare? Does your plan have the benefits you want? You may be eligible for additional benefits and savings. If you are new to Medicare, moving, or losing benefits, it takes just one free call to see if you may be eligible to enroll. Call the Benefits Network now for a free Medicare benefits review and see if you qualify for a plan that gives you additional benefits. Our partners offer plans from multiple carriers, so it's easier for you to compare your options, coverage, and pricing.
I'm on Medicare and recently moved, so I called to make sure to find a plan in my new community.
You don't get a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits automatically, so make the free call to the number on your screen and a licensed insurance agent will walk you through the entire process. It's that easy. For a free, no-obligation consultation,
call 800-827-8596. That's 800-827-8596.
Helene is strengthening in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and it's honing in on Florida. Expected to be a major hurricane tomorrow, potentially a high Cat 3, low end Cat 4. But you can already tell the conditions there in Cancun that got slammed by Helene earlier today. You heard the coming in, but notice that right at the end of that video, you saw how the water was getting inside. That's a component with all of this. Welcome inside Fox Weather Live. I'm Steve Bender. Florida, of course, is on high alert for Helene's impacts. It's expected to begin tonight. We're talking wind, flooding rain and life-threatening storm surge combined together, the danger stretches from the Florida Keys through Tampa, the Big Bend region, and truly throughout the entire southeast. Now, St. Petersburg, that's just outside of Tampa, they're bracing for potentially never-before-seen levels of storm surge for modern day. Now, the city's mayor is actually urging people not to take Helene lightly.
The time to prepare. This is a very strong, very serious storm, and the storm surge is really something we haven't seen in this area forever.
I say modern day because I talked with our hurricane specialist, Brian Norcross. He was saying some storms back in the early 1900s could have rivaled what we're seeing, but that just shows you how historic this event could be and why that rapid intensification process and a major hurricane at landfall is going to lead to widespread impacts and sadly devastating damage throughout the southeast. When we look at our team coverage, you'll see that it's expansive. As large as Helene is as large as our coverage is throughout the southeast. 14 different team members. I want you to look at Mike Seidel. He's in Keene Beach. That's where Adalia last year made landfall. Robert Ray is in Steenhatchee. That's where we had landfall from Debbie about a month and a half ago. Brandy, Michael Estimate, Ian Oliver, they're all in Tampa, which is dealing with an extensive impact, even though they're well outside the cone. Kiana Lewis, Marissa Torres, they're both in Tallahassee, where the capital of Florida has never seen a storm like this. Yeah, that just speaks to an area that's used to storms, yet they haven't seen this before. Why this is so impressive. Let's bring in the forecast of Helene right now because we have a new advisory that just came in. And look at this, the southernmost point of the continental U.S., Key West. See how powerful those waves are? We've been watching this for the past 2 hours. More and more water spitting up over the seawall. That's showing you a strengthening of the winds, right around tropical storm force winds already arriving to the Keys. Let's get into this newest advisory. What is it telling us? What are the changes? The changes are minute, but it shows you something that we've talked about with this overall storm, is that it's strengthening. Pressure millibars dropped now down to 974. Storm movement still north at 12 miles per hour. Winds sustained at 85 miles per hour. So the pressure millibar was a relatively significant drop, right? And that is a sign. I was talking with Cody behind me here. What we're looking at with satellite imagery is there any of those, the core of the storm, is that developing, right? We know that there is a center of circulation, but you don't have a bona fide eye wall just yet. But when you watch those high towers or that eruption where it looks like almost an atom bomb started to come off, that's showing you that there is a strong core and there's an eye wall that's developing and you have major concerns ahead. I think that's going to develop overnight tonight and throughout the day tomorrow, of course, as we get to major hurricane status. Look at this here. A very strong band that continues to lift north, sweeping through, pressure washing the Everglades, the I-75 corridor just south of Fort Myers, Naples. If you keep driving north of Fort Myers about an hour and a half, you arrive in Tampa. You know who we got in Tampa? We got a good friend of the show and, of course, good person on Fox Weather you see all the time. Right before our show, that's meteorologist Ian Oliver. He's right there in St. Pete Beach. And Ian, I've noticed you've kind of moved locations because it's now nighttime. But I think this brings up a poignant example of what tomorrow is going to be like. Helene's coming in overnight for the Big Bend. That's a big concern, right?
Yeah, no question. And I think what happens between now and tomorrow night is the biggest concern. It's exactly what you just told us in that new update. The storm developing that inner core, and once it does so, it's got the warm waters of the southeastern Gulf of Mexico or less turbocharge it through the overnight hours tonight. So getting a touch gustier here in St. Pete Beach. We're actually in Paso Grill. It's technically in St. Pete Beach, but it's the southern part of this. We're only about 5 miles, call it as the crow flies, north of the mouth of Tampa Bay. So yeah, you got the Sunshine Skyway down that way. And keep an eye on the shot behind me because you just showed the satellite, Steve. I've been watching the next band on radar. It's about 50 miles straight that way, straight behind me. That's off to the south-southwest. That feels like it would be the very beginning of the more main event. We had that band that came through earlier, and it was a decent one. We got some brief heavy rain, but for folks that have gone through a prolific rainy season in the Tampa Bay area, it's been a rough one this year. It wasn't much worse than what you would see summer day. Those out there and beyond, as you start to get into the will be a whole different story. So yes, for the time being a Cat 1, now the forecast, as you said, from NHC up to Cat 4, but as important as the intensification during the overnight hours is the growth of that overall wind field. We were looking at some of the evening forecast model runs, even right here in St. Pete Beach. We could see some gusts 70, 75 miles per hour. There's a reason why there's a hurricane watch up in addition to the tropical storm warning. That means expect tropical storm conditions and be prepared for potential hurricane conditions, particularly if the center of the storm moves more so on the right side of the forecast path that you're showing. That's the storm surge forecast up into the Big Bend, as you pointed out, what could be a historic surge up to about 20 feet. There's only a couple of storms on record that rival numbers that large, but you look down toward places like where I'm standing right here in the Tampa Bay area, both in and around the bay. Once that flow switches onshore, when the storm itself, the center of it, is a beam of us, if it's 100 miles west, we're still getting not just intense wind gusts, but wind gusts that are perpendicular to the coastline, forcing some of that water into the bay. The mouth of it, as I said, well behind me. Look at some of those gusts, yeah, and that's going to push that water into the bay. It won't be allowed to leave. That water is shallow, an average depth in the bay of about 12 feet. And yeah, that tells you everything you need to know right there with our exclusive Fox model. Tampa proper, call it 60 to 70 miles per hour, where I'm at in St. Pete, to 90 miles per hour. That will be worse than what we saw in Idalia year. That was what, just a touch more than a year ago. That forecast peak right there would be a record, 7.67. That's at the high tide tomorrow evening, which up the way here in Clearwater Beach is just shortly after 11 p.m. So Steve, that is going to be likely the most impactful aspect of this storm for the Tampa Bay area. But those wind gusts, the rain when it's already waterlogged in spots around here, be prepared for a very impactful day here and an even worse day farther up the coast toward the Big Bend.
Yeah, and those intense winds that you alluded to and we're emphasizing, Ian, yes, storm surge, but widespread power outages. We're going to go about 5 miles to the east of you now and check in with Brandy. So, Ian, thank you for that update, and we'll continue to talk with you throughout the evening time. Let's take it over to Tampa, right? That's what it looks like right now. Notice the palm trees, relatively quiet, moving just yet, but we're looking at the coastal impacts where storm surge could get up to 8 feet, and that would be a problem for a massive city like Tampa. Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell is live in Tampa right now. And Brandy, we're looking at this event really enhancing in the overnight hours. What have you seen throughout the day there in Tampa as people prep for this?
Well, Steve, people are doing that preparation work. The city, or the county, I should say, they've been giving out sandbags. They said as of yesterday, they gave out over 23,000 sandbags, and that's not counting what was given out today. That deadline has now closed. So if you don't have what you need to sandbag up your homes and businesses, you might want to look to other sources, maybe go to the store and buy some resources to get prepared. But people have been doing that, and of course hitting up the stores, just as me and my crew, we've been doing the same to make sure we have what we need. Where we are in the downtown area, we are also under that mandatory evacuation. Our hotel giving notices to any of the guests that they are planning to stay open. So we'll have a place to stay, and we're going to be up a couple of floors. Hopefully we won't deal with too much of the flooding, but we know we could see that storm surge up to 8 feet in this area. Where I'm standing, this is in Zone A, just right next to the Hillsborough River. So we'll just take a look. It's obviously calm out tonight. I mean, no breeze at all. It feels great outside, but we know tomorrow for the most of the day is going to be a completely different scene. Even going into the later hours of today, we're going to expect to get some bands of rain coming in, and also the wind just starting to slowly increase. Just speaking with our Fox Forecast Center, we could expect the winds to eventually increase to around 15 mile per hour wind speeds to go into early tomorrow morning. Here in Hillsborough County, again, where we're under that mandatory evacuation, if you aren't able to get out, you do have an option in terms of evacuating locally. There are 6 shelters that are open. Some of those, they are also pet friendly, and other things just to keep note of if you are here. Obviously, the bus service, that's going to be closing down. And even the water department just updating folks on what they're doing. They're releasing water from the Hillsborough River Reservoir in anticipation of the heavy rainfall from Hurricane Helene. So a lot going on, even in downtown where it's fairly quiet. I mean, we have some people driving around or people skateboarding in this area, but it's very quiet. Businesses closing down early, posting online what they're doing. There's a restaurant to my right. They posted online about sandbagging and that they closed early today. We also have convention center. They've posted online that they've put up some sand, pretty much just securing their right on the water. And what you can't see behind me is the Tampa General Hospital. They have an aqua barrier. I believe that's what it's called. And it's a 9-foot tall barrier that's wrapped around, basically, or aqua fence, excuse me, to go ahead and protect them from up to 15 foot of storm surge, because they are on an island out there. That hospital built about 100 years ago. So they are prepared. I think folks are just getting hunkered down. I think the next step will be to talk to some people that are still out in downtown and see how they're feeling in anticipation for this storm. Steve?
Brandon, you read my mind. I wanted to ask you about that aqua fence because I thought that was fascinating, but it shows you how dire the situation is. And not too far from you, Pasadena Hospital already started evacuating their patients to nearby hospitals, probably Tampa General, because of their concern. I see right behind you, your photog has the parking garage highlighted. Do you see that being something that's really kind of probably filled up by now? Because a lot of people probably trying to get their car to higher ground when they're thinking about an event like this.
Or I would imagine, hopefully folks are going to be getting that potential. Yeah, that's a spot. If you can't leave, and because we know that's something we so often during these storms and after with the flooding. I mean, I saw it, in North Carolina, we had no name storm, so many people losing their vehicles. We're obviously going to have ours in the garages as well. So I'll have to see if the county, if they've waived fees for folks who are in the downtown area, might need to put their cars, onto higher ground situation. I know they do that where I live in Miami, just to make sure people have need it.
Yeah, I think that the city comes out early in advance trying to say, hey, look, we're going to try. How many layers there are to this in these massive cities like Tampa, and you had referenced Miami, where you call home. Brandon, good to talk with you. Please be safe throughout this event, and we'll continue throughout the evening time as well. Brandon Campbell in Tampa, Florida. Now we're looking at Hudson, Florida, where that's northern Florida, and then the southernmost point in Key West, where that rough surf keeps pounding the seawall. What Helene can do. Fox Weather, we're your Hurricane HQ for coverage of Helene. By the way, we'll be tracking this storm 24/7 today, tomorrow, Friday, through the weekend, so you can stream us for free anytime. All you gotta do is go to foxweather.tv.
Get started today with RexMD.com.
At Rue La La, feel like $1,000,000 without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
When surprise breakdowns happen, American Home Shield will be there to fix or replace parts of the systems and appliances you rely on every day. They help protect your time and money by connecting you with qualified pros and helping pay for covered repairs or replacements. AHS offers flexible and affordable plans for every home. Sign up today and get 50% off. Visit AHS.com or call 833-PLAN-AHS for this limited time offer.
Stay tuned.
These ultra non-stick bakeware free from Granite Stone. Are you tired of pots that burn, lids that don't fit, and pans that stick? You know you need a new set, but the prices are so high it makes you sick. Well, get ready for a kitchen full of the most durable ultra non-stick cookware at the most affordable price. The fast, easy way to cook gourmet family meals every day. Each piece of Granite Stone cookware is pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction and coated 3 times with our durable ultra non-stick Granite Stone Blue finish. Granite Stone Blue is oven rated up to 500 degrees for outstanding roasting and come with vented tempered glass lids to prevent boil over. Plus, all Granite Stone cookware is 100% dishwasher and metal utensil safe. Look, you'd expect to pay up to $500 for a professional quality cookware set. But during this special TV introduction, you can get the Granite Stone Blue 12-piece set, not for $500, $400, or even $300, but for the factory direct price of just 5 easy payments of $49.95. And for everyone who orders today, we're going to drop 1 payment. You get it all for just 4 easy payments of $49.95. Granite Stone cookware is so durable, it comes with a 10-year warranty. As a bonus, we'll include our self-draining fry basket, stainless steel steamer insert, and the steamer rack, a $50 value, absolutely free. And there's even more. As a special gift, you'll get our 5-piece Granite Stone Blue bakeware set, the fast, ultra non-stick way to bake up your favorite desserts. No grease or oil needed. Together, they're a $110 value. Yours free. That's an incredible 20-piece Granite Stone Blue set. All for just 4 easy payments of $49.95. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-548-2576. That's 1-800-548-2576 or order online at granitestoneblue.com.
And welcome into Fox with a Live, showing you Cancun, Mexico, where they've been taking the pounding from Helene throughout the day as it's intensified into a hurricane. Now we talk about where does it stand in the present moment? Where is it in its life cycle? We've talked about it as a strengthening, right up to 85-mile-per-hour winds. We have multiple reconnaissance missions in there. We have the NOAA P3 and we have the Air Force C-1. You can see making many passes through. Now, this is the Air Force one, right? And something important is their direction coming in. They're coming in out of the southeast. And what we find these little yellow areas. You see that's 60 to 100. That's where they've gotten that hurricane gust. But it's only been a small burst. What we had with the other flight, remember we have the NOAA P3. The NOAA P3 has actually been coming in out of this direction, directly out of the east. They just found a concentrated region, multiple signals of hurricane force winds on the eastern side. So what does that tell us, right? In the these vortex messages, it shows us that an inner core could be forming. That energy, and another sign of that is this is the first time we've gotten this characteristic, a spiral, where you're starting to see maybe we've had a core, we've had circulation, but now you're starting to see more of that core being well defined, maybe a little bit of an eye wall starting to develop. These are those beginning phases, but the beginning tells you a lot of what the end result could be like, right? And so we're looking at pressure millibar, still significant. Here's some of those messages coming in. These are those vortex messages showing you that small, but this was that wind speed of 78 miles per hour. But this, again, was actually out of the Air Force reconnaissance. Again, they are flying in out of the southeast, so not nearly as strong. Get out of the latest NOAA P3 flight coming in out of the east. So all of that to tell you that the new messages coming in out of the hurricane hunters, this thing is strengthening in real time overnight, and that the core of this could be getting more and more well organized. This rapid intensification could be likely. What does that mean for people in northern Florida, right? Because this thing's by the Yucatan. Well, it means they need to be preparing. This is Tallahassee, Florida, the capital, where in Leon County they've made sandbags available for residents throughout the day today and even yesterday. Tallahassee is also where we find Fox weather meteorologist Kiana Lewis. And Kiana, we know well in advance of a storm like this, it's going to come in spurts. How has it been for you throughout the day today? Have you seen any thunderstorms kind of go through Tallahassee?
Well, Steve,
The day actually was pretty good. It was a little bit more humid, some cloud coverage building in. We called that the proverbial calm before the storm, right? But we kind of go into the evening hours. We got this one big burst of rain that actually just happened. So, I got the jacket on, pulled the umbrella out. We're getting prepared for what's to come. And we do have Helene slowly but surely starting to work its way into the Gulf and eventually into Florida. That's where we've really been kind of grow through the course of today. Here now, we do have a couple of thunderstorms that are now moving into the area. Just saw a lightning strike off to my right. So we're starting to feel those impacts. And that was one of the big concerns when I talked to residents through the course of today. Are you prepared for what's to come as we go into tonight, the overnight, and into tomorrow? The same goes with the mayor. He was voicing that, folks, if you can get out and evacuate, definitely want to try to do so earlier in the day. You still have a little window before we head into the overnight. I kind of want you to listen to what the mayor had to say.
Welfare of the entire community is of concern. Let's keep in mind that in the history of Tallahassee, we have never been directly hit by a Category 3 hurricane. This is going to be historic, and it's going to be catastrophic. We will have significant damages all over the community. Now, we are prepared in all aspects. Like I said, we have our assets stationed all over. We have personnel stationed all over. The question is, how much of the impact are we going to actually see?
And so, Steve, here I am now in downtown Tallahassee. This is an area that would usually have a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people out and about bustling as we go into the late evening hours. No one out here but you and I and the viewers here watching, as well as our photographer and our producer here. But, this is what we're expecting from folks, to stay indoors, to definitely keep it safe as we go through the next couple of hours here. Even students at Florida State hightailed it out of here. We talked to them earlier today, too. Just trying to play it safe. Take a listen to what they had to say.
I mean, initially I just didn't think it was going to be that big, so I just planned on staying. But this morning, everything kind of seemed worse, so I'm just getting ready to leave.
Yeah, I've never been in a hurricane before, so I was kind of just trusting what all my friends said. And then everyone was calling them this morning and saying you need to get out of there, mostly because if we lose power or food, then it's just going to be hard to kind of continue our regular lives.
And I think the power is the big thing that folks are kind of scared of losing at this point. Tallahassee, a city of trees. We've talked about this, the nature's coast, if you will, along the Big Bend. We have these tree-lined streets all up and down downtown Tallahassee. Beautiful trees that I've been observing. You can see a couple of them behind me that are lit up. But those are going to be the concerns moving forward. When we have these big wind gusts that come through 100 plus, 120 plus miles per hour, those trees are going to topple. I've been hearing they're going to snap like twigs. That's what the residents here are saying. So power is certainly one of the bigger concerns. We'll be watching that through the next couple of hours or so, seeing if, downtown Tallahassee can hold up to that. We have the rain starting to pour in. You can see it picking up over me now. So, of course, we're going to be watching those flood concerns to Tallahassee, just up their flash flood threat to a flash flood threat of a number 4 for today. That's going to be another big concern that we watch into tomorrow. So, of course, here in Tallahassee, the state's capital, we're keeping a close eye on things through tonight, and certainly we'll be back into the elements of things tomorrow, Steve.
Important update you just gave us there, Kiana. 4 out of 4. That's the highest level, and that now reaches on the I-10 corridor in the state's capital. Thank you so much for giving us that update. Please be safe, Kiana. I know you're kind of just getting some spurts of rain, but we know it's going to be intense throughout the day tomorrow. Fox weather meteorologist Kiana Lewis, thank you for joining us. Let's dive into the latest, what we have been seeing here, and it's so important. I've been getting a chance to talk with Cody behind me here. As much as we talk about our teams that are out in the field, we got to give some love to the people you don't see behind the scenes, because they're hurricane specialists. They are getting this crucial data. One thing I want to pinpoint is this right here. When you're watching for the core, we just talked about the hurricane hunters. They're flying in. We said this core is becoming more well-defined, right? One thing you're looking at, these high towers, these hot towers, this kind of an eruption of energy that burst around that circulation. Well, Cody just kind of tapped me on the shoulder while we were talking with Kiana. He's like, I think I see one. So he's going to zoom in. This is another signal. It's a minute sign, but shows you right here, this area, that eastern side, where the NOAA P3 flight that came in right into this direction registered a concentrated wind field. A long duration of hurricane force winds coincides right where there's that high tower, right? That's just showing you that's gaining in that elevation, or I should say vertical lift, showing you that there's this punch of kind of energy. This is that plane flight that we were just talking about. This zone right in here. If you didn't know what you were looking at and you kind of just glance over this, you're saying, I see a bunch of arrows. That's why we dive into this. If you look at this, this is 4 barbs showing you at least 60 to 100 mile per hour winds. Another wind field right here. What this tells me when I'm watching this is this slow crawl through the channel into the eastern Gulf, right on the eastern side of that core where we talk about the dirty side, that northeast quadrant. It's healthy right now, which means the signal overnight is that we're going to have a strong and a serious storm on our hand throughout the entire day tomorrow. I'm not just talking about landfall. I'm talking about the entire peninsula of Florida. Look at this. The outer bands already hitting Ian and Brandy in Tampa. We just talked with Kiana. She's even getting some of those spurts all the way up in Tallahassee. I mean, we're talking hundreds of miles away, already feeling the impacts. We're going to continue our coverage. Take a listen to what this storm's been like. That's in the Yucatan Peninsula that took a pounding from Helene throughout the day today. I mean, vantage point, you can't see much beyond the trees in the foreground. And those palm fronds, by the way, that's the natural ecosystem. They've gone through countless storms, and they're even being put to the test. Don't test yourself. If you're in an evacuation zone, please take this seriously. Get out. Here on Fox Weather, we're your Hurricane HQ for the entirety of Helene. We'll be tracking this storm 24/7, and as a reminder, you can stream us free anytime on foxweather.tv.
Hello, I'm former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. A lot of times you can't control the amount of sleep that you're getting. You can't fall asleep or you're tossing and turning all night. You can't get the sleep you need to stay healthy. I know, it's scary unless you use Relaxium Sleep. Relaxium Sleep is a product that's made from natural ingredients, and it usually works from the very first night you try it. It helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed, earning your body those quality hours of sleep that it desperately needs.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people who've experienced the relief and health benefits from getting a great night's sleep and get Relaxium Sleep.
The first time I took Relaxium and I slept through the night, I thought, wow, this worked for me. I could not believe it.
Relaxium Sleep is studied, tested, and designed by a neurologist to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed.
Relaxium Sleep worked from the very first night I took it. I had more focus and mental clarity than I've had in years.
Relaxium is drug-free and not addictive, so you can take Relaxium every night and never worry about side effects. And the best part is, it can start working from the very first night.
When I take Relaxium Sleep, I sleep better than I have in years.
I wake up feeling like I've had the best night's sleep.
Stop being afraid and start sleeping your fears away with Relaxium Sleep. Well, thank you.
Mike Huckabee is so confident that Relaxium will work for you, he's asked us to give away 1,000 bottles.
If you're not getting calm enough to go to sleep, take Relaxium Sleep. I promise you it'll work.
Relaxium Sleep now. It's guaranteed to work or your money back. Visit TryRelaxium.com or call 800-317-6312. That's TryRelaxium.com or call 800-317-6312.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Go to InventHelp.com now and get free information on how to get started today. InventHelp provides invention services that help everyday inventors get started with their idea. We have representatives nationwide who will explain the InventHelp process step by step. Over 10,000 patents have been secured through InventHelp's patent process. Our services include professional materials needed to showcase your invention and 3D animation and prototype modeling that help you demonstrate your idea. Get down to the details of your idea with a technical drawing. The InventHelp Databank includes thousands of companies who have agreed to review new ideas. We've been helping inventors since 1984. Let's help you next. Take advantage of the opportunity to get started today. Go to InventHelp.com for free information.
And welcome back into Fox Weather Live. We're continuing on alert mode and will throughout the entire event, but we need you to be on alert. Take a listen to what many Floridians have.
Last storm was going to be cake compared to what we're going to go through now. And right now we're getting everything emptied out. Anything that can float become a hazard. And then later on we're going to go board up our houses. I'm planning on staying as long as I can. I want to stay. I'm going to wait till the last minute.
Are you? Okay. And I mean, the surge here could be
15 feet.
Yeah, maybe even more,
yes, sir.
Which is, you know,
just keep moving my up the road.
So you could just hear how he's just trying to get up the road. He's trying to get everything tethered down and out of Dodge. But it's tough. You got to find out where this storm is moving and just how large it is. When you see it from this vantage point, I mean, it's impressive at this stage. Imagine when it gets major hurricane. Why we have team coverage on this event when you're looking at 14 different crews. And then on top of that, we also have our exclusive Fox Weather Storm, Corey Gerken, Brandon Kopic. This shows you why we are your Hurricane HQ, right? All of these teams will be telling you the impactful stories from spots like this. Tampa, we have 3 crews. We have Brady Campbell, Michael Estime, and Ian Oliver. And so they're all going to be telling the stories in the days to come. Right now, relatively quiet until you look beyond the palm tree. Did you see it? I saw it. Flash of lightning. That shows you that energy. It at times can be latent energy, just kind of sitting, waiting to be tapped into. And then other times you'll see that thunderstorm flare up. Eventually, though, Helene's going to absorb all of that energy, and you're going to see a major hurricane. Where it stands right now, a strengthening Cat 1. Pressure millibar continues to drop. Notice a 4 millibar drop. Since then, though, after the advisory, we've had hurricane hunters start telling us, hey, we've got a core that's becoming a little more organized, a little more well-defined, and we're starting to see some of that energy come out of it. When the core gets healthy, even these outer bands start to really get more impressive. See this one pressure wash through Everglades, now climbing up the I-75 corridor, getting closer and closer to Naples, out towards Fort Myers, Cape Charlotte, and those areas. Look at this bunch all the way up here. When we were talking with Kiana not too long ago, spurts of rain started hitting her. That shows you why there's a flood risk. Kiana let us know, hey, we just got increased to a 4 out of 4 in Tallahassee. Tallahassee is right about in here. Notice what's happening in southern Georgia. Multiple flash flood warnings, even in southern Alabama, just north of Dothan. This right here is a massive concern. This is phase 3. These are the areas of the eastern Appalachian Mountains. I just saw visuals on X from Asheville, right in here, along with this warning where you have a bunch of water rushing through some of these state parks. We're efforting here at the Fox Weather newsroom and team to get you those visuals. But it's already scary what's happening there, and it's only going to get worse as we start to get into tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and through the weekend. Notice this now out of the latest advisory, and really the trend through the afternoon. Cat 4 potential as it slams into the Big Bend region tomorrow evening. Please take this seriously, and please be prepared. Those are the sights and sounds from Helene already. Heavy rain and gusty winds blitzing through Mexico throughout the day today, and the storm's future for Florida looks grim as Helene keeps strengthening. Let's head to the coast, where they're watching for those coastal impacts. Fox 13 Bay report. Axel Bank is actually live in Crystal River, Florida, about an hour's drive south of Cedar Key. And this is a major concern, Evan. This area, when you look at that new storm surge threat, you're looking up to 15 feet potentially, if not 20 feet, just north of you. Walk us through what you've seen there in Crystal River.
Yeah, I mean, they're concerned, and the reason that we're in this car right now is because there was a huge squall that came through. One of those outer bands came through, and it brought a lot of lightning. It brought a lot of water, lots of rain there. It was about as hard of a summer storm as you'll ever see, at least when it comes to people who would be familiar with Florida and the storms that we get here over the course of an afternoon, a typical afternoon. This was super hard, and the lightning was hitting super close to us. So that's why we just came into the car to be safe here. I want to show you, though, what it looked like in downtown Crystal River just a little bit earlier today. Stores have posted signs closed at least until Friday. The county has ordered evacuations of anyone living in what they call flood zone A here. So that's any of these low-lying areas that typically flood. That evacuation began at about 2 o'clock. And they are hoping that any assisted living facilities had people out of there even earlier than that. The schools here had a half day so that shelters can be opened in those buildings on Thursday and Friday. And residents and business owners downtown say that preparation is really the only thing they can do other than hope that they're going to be spared the worst.
We have a whole group of family from our church that's here and ready to help, ready to do whatever they can, and so that's what we're doing. So it makes it a lot easier. Many hands makes light work.
We're pretty concerned. Surge, we know this house up to this point's been safe. It hasn't flooded in 70 years, but this is probably the largest storm surge I think that Citrus County has had. Going back to the No Name, going back to Idalia. So there's concern. So we're lifting everything up in the house, and we have sandbags ready to go, and just gonna, hope for the best.
1 year ago, Hurricane Idalia flooded huge swaths of downtown. This is what it looked like on September 24th of 2023. There was a lot of water back then. I was here during that storm, and those businesses had to close for several days. There is hope that this year will not be as bad, but some of that hope obviously has faded with these new numbers that have come out. The sheriff has certainly said it was last year. Yesterday, he predicted the surge would be well into the double digits, and they are expecting that to happen. Projections have come out. So this is an area that's used to flooding, Steve, but this may be as bad as they've ever seen.
Yeah, this is scary. When you're looking at each new advisory coming in, it is going and enhancing with those birds. 13 Tampa Bay reporter Evan Axelbank, thank you for joining us here tonight on Watch Weather. So Evan was just up the road from Tampa, where we take you now, and closely eyeing that coastal impact, because this area, even though they're well removed from the cone, could actually still see up to 8 feet of storm surge. That's why we got Fox Weather's Brandon Campbell, who is live in Tampa right now to bring us the latest. Last time we talked, Brandy, there was a couple people that were still out and about, right? And so we are seeing a lot of people kind of hunkering down, but it's that eerie calm before the storm.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. And since I last spoke to you, we met some of the people that live here, a couple of college students actually going to the University of Tampa. They're out here just kind of riding their skateboards or longboards, but also are actually making sure they're prepared to ride out the storm. Also noting that also just eerie feel out here because it is so quiet. Not a lot of people out and about tonight, but also so many places obviously closing down early today and also boarding up. We got some sandbags that were put up just next to me here at the convention center. Again, obviously closed, making sure they are prepared for that storm surge that we could see up to 8 feet. An evacuation zone. We're under that mandatory evacuation, but this is zone A because we have the Hillsborough River just behind us. So we'll be keeping an eye on this the duration of our through the night and tomorrow and through Friday to see the impacts that we could see in this downtown area. Those two college students, we'll hear from them in my next hit, but they were just saying this area obviously does flood. They are really worried about it. About how much flooding they could see here, also on their college campus, noting that they had pretty significant rain that happened in less than an hour about 2 weeks ago, and they had water up to around their waists near their college campus. So they're just kind of thinking to themselves, well, what could happen with a hurricane and the impacts from it? We know it would be more so tropical storm force winds here, but also hurricane wind gusts. So we have that in addition to the storm surge as well. So a very quiet night, but folks are getting prepared. Just by yesterday, the county gave out over 23,000 sandbags. So there's definitely something to be said with that. People are seriously, the college students I spoke to said their school obviously also participating in that mandatory evacuation. So they said some of their classmates have left because they can't stay on campus. Some of them going to, other places in the state, or those students that I met, one of them going over to their friend's home because they think they'll be safer there. So just riding out that storm together. And I'm going to stay up to date or catch up with them throughout the storm and make sure that they're doing okay. But we're going to keep an eye on this area and see exactly how much flooding we do experience here. Hopefully, things will turn out for the best for the folks here in Tampa, that they'll have their cars elevated. Those students I spoke with, also doing that, putting their cars in a garage here locally. But thankfully, right now, it's the calm before the storm. A very quiet night, not too much activity happening here in the downtown area.
Bring up a good point with the college. A lot of these college students come from all around the country. If you gave me the option to go to a Florida college, yeah, I'm signing up every time. Luckily, I was able to because I lived there. I got my niece at USF. She talked about how they're concerned their classes are closed. We heard with Kiana in Tallahassee, FSU closed, along with UT. I want to ask you something. You emphasized the sandbags, but last time we talked, you actually talked about another barrier, and you had mentioned this in a prior storm. I believe it was Ian or Nicole, but it's fascinating what we've created now in order to try to protect from that Hillsborough River or even that coastal surge. You had said Tampa General. What have they set up by them in order to stay safe?
Right, yeah, so it's a very interesting thing that they have set up. It's called the Aqua Fence, and so it's 9 feet tall, wraps around the entire and all live with up to 15 feet of storm surge. So they should be okay if we could expect up to 8 feet of storm surge in this case. So it's over, I believe, 1,000 of aquafence surrounding that hospital to protect them during this event. The hospital is very old, about 100 years old, so it's been there a long time. So they just got to deal with the location that they have. But you can't see it, but the hospital is just behind us across the river right there. So I'll have to see if we can get some video to kind of give you guys a visual of what that fence looks like.
How fascinating it is, because you've been there 100 years, you've been through a lot of storms, adapting with the storm with that new technology. Fox Weather correspondent Brandon Campbell, thank you for that update. Please stay safe there in Tampa. We'll continue to check in with you. Hurricane hunters, by the way, they've been flying through days now, and they continue. We've been bringing you that live flight data, and now they're talking about the strengthening of earlier, though, while it was flying through Helene. It looks even scarier now. This is a storm to respect. Please, abide by whatever evacuations you have or those alerts. By the way, Fox Weather, we're your Hurricane HQ, and we'll be going through this event together. 7 us for free anytime.
Because of style or activity, it's terrible for your day. Premium quality automatic legs increases mobility and boosts circulation without physical strain. It's the easiest exercise you'll ever do.
Lips fits perfectly under my desk, and it is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen mobility, stimulate circulation.
Feel better, my back feels better, and longer.
Power assisted exercise that frees your mind to enjoy your seated activities. Perfect for home therapy. To use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Plug it in, place your feet, select your speed, and relax. Ellipse does all the work. Loosen stiff joints and tight muscles. Reduce swelling, alleviate cramps, and calm restless legs.
Ellipse is so smooth, so easy on my joints. My joints are longer stiff. I can walk without pain. My mobility was 20 years ago.
Seated exercises produce hard movement, but Ellipse's 46% larger rotational diameter provides more exercise plus ultra smooth motion that's safe, super low impact, and feels great. Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Be one of the first 300 callers and get upgraded to the Ellipse Deluxe Bundle, a $100 value. Yours free. Get the faster motor that produces more than 5 miles worth of steps per hour, a non-slip mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
For 50 years, Four Seasons has been turning dreams into reality, bringing the best to your outdoors. Whether it's a cozy retreat, a family fun zone, or a gathering place for friends, at Four Seasons, we've got you covered. From stylish sunrooms to our innovative Equinox louvered roof with smart home technology, we offer a wide range of products to fit your needs and your budget. Imagine relaxing in a beautiful sunroom or hosting unforgettable gatherings under your newly reimagined patio. Looking for extra living space at home? Our sunrooms and patio rooms provide a quicker, affordable solution to the hassles of traditional construction. Want to maximize your backyard? As the leading manufacturer of outdoor enjoyment for the home, we've got what you need. Celebrate our 50-year anniversary with incredible savings. Four Seasons. 50 years of quality, innovation, and best-in-class service.
And welcome back into Fox Weather Live, showing you Key West, Florida. Most importantly, the southernmost point of the continental U.S. On a good day, you're about 90 miles away from Cuba. Well, you're always 90 miles, but you'd be able to see it. Not the case, of course, throughout the day today because Helene is blocking that visibility. It's skirted past western Cuba. Pinar del Rio, that's western portion of the mountainous terrain there. They had spots that eclipsed 8.5 inches of rain, and that was 6 hours ago. Likely well above 10 inches of rain by now. Let's talk about why that's a concern. Remember, I just mentioned the mountainous terrain of western Cuba. What about the mountainous terrain of the southeast, the southern Appalachian Mountains in northern Georgia and the Carolinas? This is a threat when you talk about Friday and Saturday. It's that orographic lift. We've talked about this with numerous systems. It doesn't have to be a tropical system, but imagine that abundance of moisture derived out of the northern Gulf and the western Atlantic slamming into the mountains. And the Smoky Mountains tower over 6,000 feet. Easily taller than anything in western Cuba. That's going to allow all that moisture to wring out all at once. By the way, I've already seen visuals out of Asheville tonight with flash flooding ripping through state parks. It's alarming for what could happen. We've already got river forecasts that put them at major, if not historic levels for 2 major rivers around Asheville. Here's why I'm playing out the Fox weather model for you. You just see the unrelenting rain that hits throughout Thursday and Friday. That's why it's at a 4 out of 4 risk. There's so many phases to a tropical system. This is phase 3. This is inland impacts. But if you're in the southeast, you need to prep for this. Now, Fox weather, we're your Hurricane HQ. And Helene is forecast to be a big storm. So, of course, we've got big coverage ahead for you. Fox Weather storm trackers will be out in the field riding out the storm before and after it makes landfall. Fox Weather exclusive storm tracker Mark Sudduth actually joins me now. And Mark, what's so important is that you are the eyes in the storm. You are where people cannot survive or truly go in an event like this. Can you talk to us about where you've set up some cameras?
Well, so far down in the Tampa area on the Courtney Campbell Causeway, another camera on Bayshore, that area, probably going to get several feet of storm surge, but now we're working our way up to the Cedar Key area where there could be maybe 15 to 20 feet of storm surge. We're going to put several camera systems in some very unique spots. We're going to be working with some of the officials there. There's actually a lot of effort to study this hurricane in Cedar Key from the University of Florida and UNC Wilmington, where I went to college. And then we're going to make our way all the way around to Appalachia Bay. We've got a lot of work to do over the coming hours to set up our own weather stations. There's a shot of one of the cameras there. It's worth this effort, though, because we're going to capture this historic hurricane, and that's going to both help the viewers to see what's happening and the science, because we can see how it happened.
Everybody at home, notice when you're setting up those cameras, you have a ladder and you're going out to the very edge with your fingertips. That just shows you how high you're putting those cameras up because of the storm surge threat. I think it's so important because, Mark, this data truly brings home not only just the visual, but the data verifies how strong and powerful and catastrophic, sadly, these storms can be. You are amazing at kind of doing the analysis. What have you seen throughout Helene throughout the day, and what is your kind of concern as we approach tomorrow's landfall?
Well, the biggest thing, and it's been talked about, is just how large the wind field is. And we had that Fox special there that I was on, Eyes in the Storm, and Brian Norcross had a great analogy that a smaller hurricane with a smaller wind field is kind of like taking your hand and moving it through bath water. And then something like we're seeing with Helene, it's like taking your whole arm, and you get this massive surge because of that. So instead of a hand, it's the arm, right? And we're going to push a lot of water into that concave shape of the coastline, and that's going to be problematic. And then you know what? It's going to go inland, as you've talked about. So even Atlanta, maybe Charlotte, Western North Carolina, my home state, this is going to be a highly impactful hurricane for a lot of people, something we're probably going to be talking about for many years to come.
Mark, I want to ask you about that point, your home state, because look, we've been trying to get that message out. This is way more than just landfall. We've talked about how massive this storm is. I love Asheville. I've already seen visuals from tonight, what's happened in Asheville with the flash flood warning. Can you kind of give us a little more insight? I know that's on the opposite side of Wilmington where you live, but, can you kind of give us an insight of what that's like there and why there's concern with a 4 out of 4 flood threat?
Oh, certainly. We think back to 1998, I think it was. We had a significant flood in Bakersfield, North Carolina, because Roan Mountain received a tremendous amount of rain. It flooded down through Cane Creek. You had these small communities up there. And, Asheville, not particularly small, but you have UNC Asheville there. And just the way these areas are set up, there's a place called Bat Cave, North Carolina. And that gets flooded a lot from these systems. Camille, 1969, moved up into the Appalachians and created tremendous flooding, especially in Virginia, if I remember correctly. And so these things do not stop when they hit the coast. In fact, they can have worse impacts, sometimes hundreds of miles from where they made landfall in Western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina. We are very concerned about that for obvious reasons.
Something we'll be watching closely in the days to come. You talked to us how much work you still got tonight, so I really appreciate your time with us here on Fox Weather. Exclusive Storm Tracker Mark Sudduth. Thank you, and please be safe throughout this event.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
As we've mentioned, Hurricane Helene is intensifying. It's already gone through one cycle of rapid intensification, likely to do that again and become a major hurricane before landfall. Fox's Oliviana Calmez is actually in Madison, Florida now with the latest update. And so, Oliviana, we've been talking with a lot of our crew that's out in Florida, and the preparations have been rushed, and everybody's trying to get this done. From your point in Madison, how are people reacting today to potentially the impacts for tomorrow?
Steve, really, the people I've talked to said they just realized in the last couple of days how serious this could be, and they've started getting prepped. I'm about an hour east of Tallahassee right now in Madison, Florida, and we're under hurricane watch right now, but people here are saying this area has gotten hit hard so many times by hurricanes and severe weather. It's hard to imagine it's happening again.
We're still cleaning up from the last two, actually, so we still have debris from Idalia actually on our property, and so we're just a little tired of that. So we're actually praying for it to go somewhere else. But we're encouraging other people that may be in mobile homes or maybe they're not living in a strong structure to take the precautions and leave if they need to.
That that local pastor was helping people grab and fill sandbags the city provided, and some shelves of essentials at the grocery store around here were nearly bare today. People picking up bottled water, dried foods, anything they might need to stick out the storm in case of a loss of power. And we're hearing just how dangerous the storm surge could be in that Big Bend area, as well as we know that the governor, Ron DeSantis in Florida, declared a state of emergency for almost the entire state. So definitely on the prep side here, it's been raining for the last few hours, and the wind is also starting to pick up just a little bit too. Steve?
That's a concern, right, Oliviana? With the rain well ahead of this event, saturating the surface, the winds start coming in, trees, power lines, much more prone to collapsing and falling in that event. Widespread power outages anticipated. Fox News multimedia reporter Oliviana Calmes, thank you for that update. Please stay safe throughout Helene. And let's talk more about what we have seen out in the southeast. There's that 4 out of 4 risk, right? It's been raining throughout the day. Oliviana just kind of alluded to that, even in northern Florida. But when we look at where Helene is, I mean, if we measured this out, it'd be probably close to about 1,000 miles away from what they're experiencing in the Carolinas. Don't let that distance let your guard down. It's so important to stay in tune and know that this is much more and much greater than a landfall, right? You're going to be talking about where from Tampa, the reference point right now, 450 miles. If you're thinking about Asheville, North Carolina, it's going to be well beyond 1,000 miles. But why you need to stay in tune with what's going to happen after landfall throughout the day on Friday, even into the weekend. Let's continue to talk about the latest with Helene, because when you're looking at this, I was just getting some visuals out of Naples, Florida, where it's this pressure washer effect. I was talking with Cody about that, where you could tell that it's an outer band and not just a regular rain event in Florida, because all the trees, all the palm trees are bending in the same direction, and you have this blitzing rain that's coming down. These visuals and stories, they're going to keep coming your way because of our brave men and women out in the field. Look, this is our team on Fox Weather. They're spread out throughout the entire southeast, telling you the stories and the impacts from Helene. By the way, the impacts have already started. Show you what's happening in the Florida Keys right now. This is Key West, where, wow, right? You just signed up for the splash zone. Get that quick selfie and then get out of there. We're going to be talking about what is going to unfold, I should say, for Florida next. Stay with us.
Mike Huckabee here, and like millions of other
778 miles wide, and then the length of this thing, 1,156. I mean, this thing is massive, but we're going to talk about the wind radius and how that could affect this forecast. So going into radar right now, we've seen some downpours in those far outer bands as they move through our area, but overall today has been a quiet day. It's been a day that we've said, get all your prep together, because tomorrow is when things will rapidly change. So today, yes, some of you may have run into a downpour, some nasty weather, some thunder, some lightning, but overall, most of our area was quiet, just dealing with cloudy conditions. If I extend this picture, though, you can see how we had much heavier rain to the south of us here. So we're just getting started. This is the far outer bands that we're experiencing right now. And that rain will become more numerous as we move into tomorrow. But the flooding that we're experiencing, it's not really concerned flooding, it's storm surge that we're concerned about. And don't forget, the two are separate. Let's go into the track. First of all, we are expecting this to start off as that Category 1 status, but I want you to watch this, where it goes from a Category 2 to a Category 4. Nearly skipping over the Cat 3 stage, right? That's because this thing is going to rapidly intensify as it enters into that warm body of the Gulf of Mexico, plus lower wind shear.